Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's podcast time. We're almost in agreement at gmail.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. We're going to do our best to get monetized on YouTube, so I'm going to keep my language to myself for at least the first 10 minutes, says Sam, as the rules apply. We got some more names popping up. The city election has started. People are announcing their intent to run, and it's still too early to really talk about it. We'll see. It's only a whopping 5 races, which is crazy easy to keep up with comparatively to what we just did in the county races. So anyway, website's almostagreement.com. Go there, check out all the episodes. You can reach out to me. Our email's on there and stuff like that. I will be doing a city election guide coming up to talk about some of that stuff. We can talk about some of the stupid stuff that went down at county commission, among other things, this week. So I don't know. We're going to do what we do. We're going to talk about stuff. And so clock starts now. Let's see if I can keep my mouth shut language-wise for 9 more minutes. Aha, friend. Hey. What's up with ya?
Ain't nothing.
Ain't nothing. You've been working like triple shifts all week, man. We're a day late on this episode for everybody because you had to have a stupid job.
Yeah. Poop happens.
Poop happens. Sorry. Self-edited. That just sounded really ridiculous in my head. Like, I know I just said we're going to try to do it, but like it almost isn't worth it. I don't know. What's new? What's exciting? Did you get one of your Trump NFTs?
Not yet. I did see
they're sold out. Too late, bro.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Is it really?
Yeah, man. You think they're going to? If I would actually,
really only so many out there?
I mean, for now, he'll probably do a rerun of it, which is going to kill value. But I would have done it. Like, if I would have thought about it, I would have bought one. If I would actually put a little bit of thought into it, like, yeah, they'll sell them, and they'll have a secondary market for over what I pay for it. They're $100 a piece, I think, is what they were, $99 a piece. Yeah. Which all that just goes into Trump's pocket. Essentially, you're just buying nothing from Trump. But
you get a cool digital picture.
You get it, yeah. But you can sell that. I mean, it's a token, so you can sell the token for whatever somebody will pay for it. So right. Just like when you buy tickets to the
how does that work? Do you get like the file that I could send to?
No, it's a
photo studio.
It's a
to
blockchain
have it, like,
ship
printed out.
It's a blockchain.
I know you own
thing.
like the rights to that particular image, but
yeah, but it's a blockchain thing. It's one of those you have it and you can show people it and it's proof of whatever.
How do you show it to them?
I don't think you can email. I don't know. I guess you could email it to them. I don't know. It's not a JPEG. I don't know. I don't know exactly how that site works.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll bet you that there are people today that bought a couple of them, and that they're selling
trying to resell. Oh yeah,
for 2-3 times as much. I'm sure that they're going on whatever exchange area it is for $300 and $400 a piece now, and they'll go crazy and they'll get up to some ridiculous number, and then it'll bottom out just like every other one does. The value of Trump will decline, which it apparently already has. There's been a couple of polls gone out recently that DeSantis, even though he hasn't said he's going to do anything, is outpolling Trump in a lot of places right now. And you got to take. I mean, if you take anything from the midterm, I think that's what the midterms taught us. If it was a Trumpy candidate, they lost. If it was a more traditional Republican, which I don't like that phrase, but a more traditional Republican won, and that's the only way you can really explain it as far as I'm concerned. Because how do you have, shit? I mean, Georgia is a good example. You had a Republican win governor.
It was still a really tight race, and I think that Brad Raffensperger, one of their secretaries of state, I think had come out recently and said that they needed to not have any more runoffs, kind of change the election cycle to where there wouldn't be another runoff. I guess because it's been these past 2 elections that Warnock's been involved in. Right, they're expensive. On top of, because I think it's just they have to have that threshold if it's a 3-party or a 3-person race.
There's a simple
at least
solution.
One of those has to have 50.001% or something.
There's a simple solution.
Rank choice.
I mean, that's exactly. I mean, that's essentially what. That's what a runoff is. It's just a slow rank choice. Right. Instead of voting for your second choice, because however many thousand or million people in Georgia voted for that Libertarian or other candidate that was on the ticket in November, they still get to vote that person won, But then they go ahead while they're there and say, well, I'll take Warnock as number 2.
Right.
And then we save this 6 weeks of bullshit and $700 million or whatever it is they spent running doing this runoff. And you because theoretically, I did hear somewhere that there were more people voted in the runoff than the original, which the original was also a really big number.
Huh.
Which means, I don't know exactly what that means. Kind of means, I guess, that people.
I think you would already have to have been a registered voter. You couldn't register after the initial general, right?
Mm. Yeah, you're right. I believe your the registration for that election was due pre-November.
Right.
But
so that many more people showed up compared to the first.
Right. A bunch of people that were registered didn't show up in November, and we're like, oh, I guess we're in the runoff now. I guess I'll bother because I only have one item on the ticket.
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm going for one thing. Like, okay, maybe the line won't be so long.
But I mean, you have Oz and
Fetterman,
the crazy governor in Pennsylvania, not Fetterman, but because the governor's race in Pennsylvania,
is that Mastriano?
Yeah, and and then somebody in Arizona, like all these candidates that were the most Trumpy and endorsed by Trump or pushed by Trump, which was that's what Herschel Walker was. They all lost.
Yeah.
So that says that Trump-style candidates, that they're still not Trump. Because there are a lot of people that are Trump voters that don't give a shit about anything else except voting for Trump. So
they embrace the cloak of the Trump.
Right. But I'm saying, but some don't. That's what I'm saying. There are some that they're super Trumpy,
right,
but they don't put the effort out except for Trump. So there's a lot of people that probably didn't vote because Trump wasn't on the ballot.
Yeah.
That would have voted for Trump and his surrogates had Trump been on the top of the ticket.
There's been some interesting reasonings for why some Republicans are saying that some of their candidates didn't do as well nationally.
I mean, to me, it's candidate quality. Like, I can't remember where it was. They were talking about it on the Breaking Points podcast. There's some guys, YouTube journalist kind of guy that was just out talking to people. And the best quote that came out of it might have been out of Louisiana or Texas. I think it was Louisiana, where the guy's like, who do you want to control the Senate? Well, I want Republicans to control the Senate. Are you going to vote for the Republican in the Senate race here? It's like, no. It's like, well, that means the candidate that's running is a Republican for you. There's something wrong with.
Right.
You want Republicans, but this one you don't feel like is a Republican, and so you can't bring yourself to vote for this guy. And again, I don't remember. I think it was Louisiana, but I don't remember what state it was. To me, it's candidate quality. I think that's Herschel Walker's issue. He's a bad candidate. Whether he even to me, I don't think he had any of his own policy positions. He was just doing what he was told on any policy issues.
Right. He had notoriety.
I mean, obviously the dude isn't truly anti-abortion, but
he still got almost half the vote in the state, or of the people that voted.
And the big question to me in that particular race is the people who voted for Herschel Walker. How many of them voted for Herschel Walker? How many of them voted for the Republican?
True. Because
I have a hard time thinking with a candidate quality as poor as Herschel Walker with that
people were like, oh, he'd make a great senator.
But I mean, like you said, like in the November part, he had 48% of the total vote. Right. Warnock had 48%, and then that damn libertarian screwing everything up, forcing a runoff, had like 3% to keep it from being 50% one way or the other.
Right.
And so to me, that's the question: is like how many people. I mean, I don't know. With a candidate like Herschel Walker, with a candidate like that Mastriano, I don't like. How many people actually give a shit about the candidate, or they're just voting their R's? I'm a Republican, or maybe not even I'm a Republican. Well, and I guess there's a third part of the question. Maybe this is a better way to put it: is that I'm voting for Mastriano, I'm voting for the Republican, or I'm voting for not the Democrat.
Right.
And I think the answer to that is the most telling question about the problem in politics to me. Because I would say likely the majority of the votes for a Mastriano or a Herschel Walker type character were for it's the R on the ticket. But I would say probably the majority is it's not the fucking Democrat.
There's definitely a mixture of that. Like I said, there was an article that I read not long ago. I hadn't really thought about it, but kind of to the point that you were making, that some people are going out and voting, simply voted or on the national level as far as who's going to control the House, who's going to control the Senate. They're not voting for candidate whatsoever. It's all about that party and who's going to have control of federal
right, which
houses.
To me, Which to me goes back to that stupid age-old question of what is a Republican, the one that I get in trouble for asking all the fucking time. What is a Republican? Because that, to me, that guy in Louisiana or whatever that the quote was from, I want Republicans to run the Senate, but I can't vote for a Republican running for Senate here. To me, that says that that person has an image of what a Republican is in their head and what a Republican majority Senate is going to do. Now, there's a couple of ways that could be viewed. It could be a Republican majority Senate. It's just going to make President Biden's have a hard time and not get his agenda passed. And so part A of it could be, I don't like Biden, and so I want a Senate that's going to make Biden less effective. That could be the reasoning for why I want a Republican-controlled Senate. But to me, there's still some sort of framework that the average American, when you say that guy's a Republican, an image shows up in their head. White male, probably, but not even that. That's not the point I was getting to. But there's an image of what that means, because I do think I think the image, true or not, is that the Republicans are better on economic issues. They're more effective in fixing economic issues and getting the economy up and rolling better. I don't know what policy the Republicans necessarily have that says that is their intended goal, but that's an image that I think that's a what's the fucking word I'm looking for? Like an archetype of Republicanism. That the general, like if you went out and surveyed people, like
most people associate fiscal conservatism or whatever,
right? But
generally seen as a good thing as far as saving money, but versus just spending
right. But it's not even that part of it though. To me, is that it's that better economy. What does the government do to make the economy better? And in the average person's viewpoint, I think the majority of people think Republicans have better policy concerning the economy to make for a better economy. I think that is a ism. Certainly, any like hardcore Democrat's going to disagree with that point. They're going to say no, the Democratic policy is better for the economy. But if you take the general public outside of partyism, like outside of a party favoritism, I think that's an image that's a mindset that's true on average. Because it doesn't make sense otherwise. Why you would be like you said, like the people that
I think it's a general assumption and kind of a broad look at it, I guess.
Right, and so I guess
not really diving deep into it, but just like I said, just kind of that general assumption of okay, well, Republicans going to save versus Democrats going to spend.
Right, and if they're spending, they have to take taxes. If they have to take taxes, that's hard on the economy. That means it's going to be harder for me to make more money and my business to grow or whatever it is under a Democratic government. Like that'd be the inference at play. So I guess the question that I have, not that you have the answer to, but just the general question that I have, almostinagreement@gmail.com, tell me the answers, is what's the general platform to the general public? Like what does it actually mean? Like what is a Democrat? To two people, not what their stated case is, but what do people think? Because again, I think this is the stupid team game thing. People vote their R's, they vote their D's. It doesn't necessarily matter who the person is, for the most part, or unless the person's really bad, Herschel Walker. How do you get enough people to just vote the R? Because that means the R means something, and what does the R mean to most people?
Are you asking me?
I don't know if you have any thoughts, I'd be interested to hear them.
Not really.
But I mean, that was a stupid thing where everybody makes fun of me for it. But when the last time I had Randy and Matt in here together, I was like, what is like? And it's like I feel like the two party chairs locally should be able to answer that question. What is a Republican?
You would think at the same time they don't want to be pigeonholed into one specific archetype.
Right, but again, my point is that that archetype is a reality to the public.
Right.
It means something to the public, and maybe to the Republican leadership.
Right, but I think they also benefit of it being a bit of a vagueness that,
I'm sure.
that anyone could
right.
be.
I can apply
my version of it.
Right. Because I mean, you get down to it, a Republican in
because it's with anything, it's on a spectrum.
A Republican in New York would be considered a Democrat in Tennessee, policy-wise.
Okay.
I'm just saying, your Republicanism changes, democraticness.
Not that drastically to where a Republican in New York would be a Democrat in Tennessee.
Dude, I'd have to think about it. I'm trying to think about Rudy Giuliani.
Would be a Democrat in Tennessee?
sure wouldn't be looked at as a Republican. I mean, maybe now with his Trumpismness, but I don't know. He was hard. He liked cops, and he did stop and frisk and shit like that. He hated black people like a good Republican does. I'm not sorry. He didn't hate them. He hated on them. It's different. So, you always tell me to be careful with my words.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know that he hated black people. He just hated on them.
Gotcha.
He liked to stop and frisk and shit like that. Senator Briggs got in trouble. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah, he got unendorsed after an election.
By
Tennessee Right to Life.
For?
Because he's supposed to be a good Republican that's anti-abortion, which he is. But he is open to conversations about maybe fixing some like medical exemptions to the ban and stuff like that. And the Tennessee Right to Life is like, well, we don't endorse you anymore. And he's like, I just won my election like a month ago. I don't really care.
Okay, cool, thanks.
But I mean, the reality is it's not about him. It's about any other Republicans that are thinking they might, any other people that want that endorsement for their upcoming election in a year and a half.
Yeah.
That go, oh. And which again to me says, obviously it's important because apparently there was a Republican that had signed on to a piece of legislation as a sponsor that's going to hit this first session that is talking about trying to make some carve-outs for, you know, rape and incest and or like necessity for life of the mother stuff. And as soon as Right to Life unendorsed Briggs, he took his name off it. This other guy took his name off of sponsorship of this bill, which the only assumption is that he thinks he has political need to keep that
Tennessee Right to Life support.
Right.
Interesting.
Because again, because to me, like, that begs the question, like, how big is that coalition? Like, if you were to run as a Republican and the Right to Life doesn't endorse you, are you still going to win your seat? I mean, the real question is, are you going to win your primary? Can you win your primary without that Right to Life endorsement? Which I think is probably significant in a primary. In a general, it's probably not that big a deal. But you have Briggs that was
What's that debate of how much of their support you're losing versus how much of their clout they can then to add on to your opposing candidate, or how much money they would want to put to possibly get you out of that seat.
In a primary, right. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I find that concerning in the political sphere. Like, I get it. Like, I understand the premise. They have the clout.
It's with that with any kind of major organization.
Well, I mean, they have
how much
some clout.
They're able to sway.
Right. They have some
policy.
clout, and they can swing it, and they swing it whenever they feel like they need to swing it.
Right.
And when they swing it, they get reaction, so next time they need to swing it, they swing it. I mean, that's the only way to... I don't know how... Like, if you're the, you know, chairman or whatever it is of this Tennessee Right to Life group, I'm assuming it's a man. If you're that chairman, you say, hey, we got to do something about this Briggs situation, make sure, keep everybody else in line, and you do it, and people react to it, and you know you still got to grip.
Maybe if he was some kind of swing vote, but I mean, they had their reasons, but...
Well, it's that's you know, it's that they want the Tennessee law to be the gold standard of anti-abortion law for other states to follow, and to soften what is the best one according to them is ceding ground, which at least implies that it's not the best version out there. It's very non-collective, not collective, very non-compromising. Like, our way is the right way. Do not change it.
They have their convictions.
Yeah, but again, like I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while. I know nationally, it's still like 70-something% of people agree that abortion should be legal at some level. Nationally, I would assume Tennessee's probably a little bit lower number than that.
I was thinking it was more around like 60 tops, but I don't know.
No, I mean, the debate is if the question is some abortions or no abortions, it's like 70-75% to say some. And then the real debate is where between some and none should the line be. You know, 6, 10, 20 weeks, whatever it is. Right. Like, that's where all the conversation is. But the majority of Americans agree that it should not be illegal, especially in the life sake of the mother, and then the rape and incest, obviously. And so if most people agree on that, how much sway can this Right to Life Coalition actually have? I don't believe that Tennessee is that much more, that hardcore conservative than the national average. I believe we're more conservative than. I believe we are more. I believe Tennessee is more Republican than the national average, but I don't think it's 20-30% more.
I've seen some things that we have some of the stricter abortion laws compared to the rest of the U.S.
I mean, it's the strictest, I think. I don't think there's anybody that's past us. There might be some people that are up to where we are.
Yeah.
Because I think the closest, I can't remember, what was it? I think the closest one out there is something that's ours.
Are we at a complete ban?
Yeah, it's 100% ban. There is no
Didn't
excuse.
know if it was still up to like 4 weeks or something like that.
Nope, there is no excuse, no time, no nothing. And no exemptions. And it's the only opening there is that if you are the doctor and you make the decision that either we abort this baby or this mom's going to die, you have to be willing to go use that as your defense.
Yeah.
That she would have died if I didn't do this. Which, again, I would hope in a jury situation you would at least have enough jurors, maybe not a full jury, but enough jurors to be like, the case is compelling enough that I think it stands to reason on why he did it. Or she. Why is she, I could the evidence shows that it was a real danger to the mother's life. I can't convict on this. To at least hang juries to make it essentially a not guilty.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, it's one of those. Why would you take the chance if you're the doctor? You don't want to deal with that,
right?
And
that's what a lot of people's worry is, that it's going to make doctors kind of second guess when you're in that kind of
right, and
emergency room situation,
right? And
it's I don't know.
But the state's attorney and the county district attorneys aren't saying anything about what their plan is on it.
Right.
It's a wait and see until.
Yeah, because it's that weird game of if the district attorney wants to actually file charges.
Right.
So the doctor does have to defend themselves, but I think it's only in the case of prosecution.
Right.
I don't think it's an automatic, okay, you have done this thing, you now need to go ahead and submit your defense for doing it just in case. I think it's only if the city, county,
right. I mean, if
or whatever wants to bring charges.
Right, if nobody's pressing charges, you don't have anything to defend yourself against.
Right.
But that's the point, is that nobody's done it yet, so we haven't had any.
It's in that weird area.
There's no example of any DAs saying, you know what, it's pretty clear from my understanding of the situation that there is no, that the defense makes sense, so I'm not going to bring this one to trial because, if you're a DA, you don't want to bring it to trial unless you know you're going to win.
That's where some DAs have already gotten in trouble as far as if any case ever comes across my desk, I'm not going to prosecute it. I think there was a doctor I think it was in Tampa or St. Pete area. There was a district attorney that got reprimanded by DeSantis. I think it was for him coming out to saying that he was going to prosecute any abortion.
He would not.
That he would not.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was I believe Federer running for DA here this last summer. That was his stance on it, and it's a tough, it's a weird spot. I don't disagree with the sentiment of what he's after in the your guy in Florida's situation. I acknowledge the sentiment of what you're after, but it's also are we okay with that? The DA is just allowed to not take a case if they don't feel like it? If it was a different case, if it was if it was a murder trial and they liked the guy, they knew the guy or something like that, they didn't want to press charges on this guy, they're just allowed to skip this one because they don't feel like it?
Oh man, I think there is that kind of weird level of discretion,
right?
Where even if it's just simply in a case that they don't have enough evidence to go forward with prosecution, that they kind of have that option to not press charges, or if it's something they don't think is that serious, they're it's not worth the time and effort to prosecute this.
Right. I'm just saying, with
$50 fine offense or whatever.
Right. But with the abortion one, though, it's I don't know the Florida law on it, but it's pretty clear what the law states here. It's it is illegal to do. And so, I don't know. You've committed a crime according to the state, clearly.
But I don't think they have an outright ban either. I think it is.
I don't know
kind of
Florida,
in
but
that-
I'm just saying here,
Right.
like, like here it is Tennessee. It's an outright ban, and if a doctor performs one and it is made aware to the DA's office, even if the DA doesn't agree with it, I would think that they would be obligated to take that to trial, or not to take it to trial, but at least bring up charges. Because if you take out the specifics of this one, it's illegal to kill somebody.
And so that's where I think it gets into that weird discretion area, because it's the only person that has that claim against him is essentially the state for breaking a state law or whatever.
Yeah.
So that there's not an injured party that's saying, hey, it's not a civil lawsuit or anything. At that point, it's criminal.
Right. Well,
So
but
it's up to that city, state, locality, or whatever to press charges.
Yeah, I'm curious what the records requirements are in the medical side of it that make it harder for the doctor to not have to. Like, I feel like there's a grand assumption in this one that is the DA will know about it and whether they press charges or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I killed you now, it's possible that the DA would never know about it.
All right. That's what I was about to say. Yeah, I was like, how would the DA know about?
But I feel like that's the assumption in conversation whenever I hear anybody talking about this abortion issue and doctors and whatever. Like, they're somewhere in the medical records, it's got to be, or maybe the fact that there are multiple people involved and there's the assumption is that somebody would report it. Like, if nobody reports it, that's in the room.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. I guess the insurance company might, because the insurance company was paying for prenatal care, and then all of a sudden they're not. The hospital would have to record I would think for insurance purposes, the record of what happened to the pregnancy would have to be recorded, and if you have a miscarriage, I think that would be documented to the insurance company. And then with the insurance, is there somebody? I guess the question is there somebody who is obligated to report it to authorities if an abortion happens in their hospital? If you're in billing in the hospital or something like that, is there an obligation to report?
I don't think so, because I don't know who you would report that to. I mean, you have cases of abuse or whatever, to where there is that. I don't know if it's not necessarily part of the Hippocratic Oath, but there is some kind of
right, like if
requirement
you come in,
to notify the authorities.
Right, going back to my silly example, if I shoot you right now, throw you in the back of my truck, drive down to the ER, roll you out in the driveway of the ER and drive off, and you come in with a gunshot wound, they have to report that. The ER is obligated to report gunshot victims.
Are they?
To the police department. Hell, I could go by my stupid dog when he bit the neighbor's kid. The doctors are obligated to report a dog bite to animal control, which is Knoxville Police Department.
Right.
Or sheriff's office, rather. It depends where exactly it is, but they're obligated to report that. And that's just a dog biting a kid. So I don't know. Again, that's a question that.
I wouldn't think there's like a medical code for miscarriage or whatever. It'd probably be more of a certain procedure needing to be done. Like, I wouldn't really call it wouldn't be a hysterectomy or anything like that. But
maybe abortion would be the procedure name. There may be a different code word for it in the billing thing, but I believe that is the name of the procedure.
I don't know.
Yeah, for two dudes, we talk too much about abortion. But I don't know. Again, my point being is there's every time it comes up in conversation, every time I see people talking about Tennessee abortion law and stuff like that, there's always there's this every conversation about it is doctors and their lawyers are saying don't even bother with it because it's too risky. Well, I guess in thinking about it, the question to me is how does the DA find out that you did it? Is there my assumption is from conversation is there is some obligation that somebody somewhere in the process will report it because they have to. Because if you're a doctor,
See, I think with abortion, I don't think there is any kind of requirement in that kind of system for that specific action.
I mean, I don't know. That might be deep in the law that was recently passed, making it fully illegal or whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, that's just the assumption that I get from listening to other people talk about it. Because there's no, like, the conversation is, if you do it, you're going to get arrested. Now, if you do it, you're breaking the law, you might get arrested. But it seems to me that the talk just kind of skips that whole step in that somebody will know about it. You will get arrested. Like, you will be found out that you did it. The discovery of the action is...
Well, I can see that being a scare tactic as well.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, there's like going back to it, it's like, guy just won an election. It's like his 4th straight or something like that. I don't think he's hurting and nor necessarily worried about losing that endorsement.
Right.
We'll see if he runs again. That might answer it. I'm friends with him on Facebook now.
Ooh, goody.
I haven't ventured a conversation started. I mean, I emailed him, and I emailed his office and messaged his campaign through the Facebook back when he was running, trying to get him to come on the show. Because I'm like, he's one of the anti. He's
for the Delta 8 stuff.
He's an anti-pot guy. I got a 24-hour ban on Facebook for something I did in January.
Nice.
Yeah. Their drug policy is...
Poop happens.
Well, we're past it. Fuck it. We're 30 minutes in. We can cuss now. But, yeah, something about, like, legal or not, the promotion of drug sales is illegal or is against policy of Facebook. So even if the drug is legal.
Right.
And they, like, tobacco... I can't remember what the list of drugs was that they gave off, but essentially it's tobacco and weed. I guess cocaine, but cocaine's not, like, it'd be weird. It's not a legal or not conversation on cocaine, even though it should be legal. But just the way it's listed, it's just like, legal or not, you can't advertise. You can't promote this type of product.
Right.
It's like, that seems kind of dumb. I guess it's the all ages platform. I don't know. I can try to give them a little benefit of the doubt on it, but
I think that's probably one of their biggest things is if you're able to age restrict certain things, which...
Well, I mean, I think it's more of an interstate issue.
Right.
It's
with it being worldwide, essentially.
Right. Well, this is an interstate, but this is an interstate, at minimum, if you're on Facebook, by law, you are in interstate commerce. It's the same issue we have with the credit card companies. Some states, no hemp, no CBD, none of the derivative THCs are legal. And so, while, for example, if Kentucky had no hemp at all, like it was completely illegal in Kentucky, well, if I'm advertising on Facebook, a person in Kentucky can see it,
okay,
and it's illegal for them. And so their solution to that is not let, and so like even like, in California where they're based, where weed is legal, theoretically, a weed farm can't advertise on Facebook in California. Or not even advertise, just promote themselves through their own Facebook page in California, even though it's absolutely legal there.
Right. Because
somebody in Kentucky might see it.
Right.
Which I think is kind of stupid. But
it's the downside of the global reach,
I suppose. I have more of an issue. Like I have a problem with the idea that we now have 3 brick and mortars all in the city of Knoxville, let alone Knox County. We don't sell online. We don't do any whatever, but we have a website, a Facebook page. We have 9 employees. Any one of those 3 things puts us into federal jurisdiction on everything. Where if I didn't have, like, if we existed 3 stores and 7 employees, what was the breakdown? Yeah, 3 stores, 7 employees, no Facebook, no Twitter, no YouTube, no website, none of that. We don't fall under, like, federal labor laws and all sorts of little shit because we don't technically partake in interstate commerce. But just a Facebook page, boom. And I'd be curious what a Google page is because Google will make a page for you whether you like it or not. Your customers will make one for you by going there and sharing pictures of your location and stuff. Google will create it out of whole cloth because of your licensure.
Right.
But, like, customers will take pictures and put it on your Google page, and now you have a Google page.
I heard somebody Facebook does that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you
I beard in high school.
If you tag someone in a picture, and I guess Facebook doesn't recognize that person, it'll go ahead and create some kind of like profile for them, just in the event that that person ever creates a profile.
Right.
It's able to be like, oh, well, we have this other picture of you as well.
Well, Beard in High School does not have an official page, but they have a page that, at least for a while, I don't know, it's been a while. Like I was looking at Beard and Alumni, and there's a Beard and Alumni band group that I'm in.
Right.
But then there's a...
It was probably started by just a former alumni, not necessarily...
No, this one, like it said it on the thing, it said this page was created by Facebook because of this business. They considered it a business or a profile, like a professional page.
Gotcha.
I'm about to have to pause the show and go yell at some kids. They're thumping around loud up there. I can hear them through my headphones. Yeah, we'll see. I'll yell at them on air. Mm-hmm. Show the world how bad a dad I am. Hey, motherfuckers. Chill the fuck out. I cuss around my kids. I ain't ashamed.
Slow your roll.
You need to come.
I got good about it when my kids were young.
About
not cussing.
Oh. I mean, I don't cuss as much around them as I do in normal conversation like this and whatever, but I do, like, especially when I'm trying to make a point.
It was a weird switch. It took me a while to, like, get used to being around people that I couldn't cuss around.
Like we have a
goodness gravy.
We have a simple rule. It's you
snickerdoodles.
It's like we don't pretend. We know you know the words.
Right.
You don't use them unless you know exactly who you're with. So, like, you can cuss around me, whatever.
Right.
You cuss around my mom, you're going to have a problem. Right. And I'm not even going to step in. I'm going to be like, nope. You get him, Nana.
All right.
Mess them up.
That's part of it. It being cognizant of when you can and can't use this.
Right. You do it at school, and I gotta hear about it.
Right.
Then it's done. We're not using them at all anymore.
Right.
But I burnt my hand on the stove the other day. I was like, God, fuck! Screaming through the house, and it's like I don't know. It just doesn't seem like I don't know. Maybe that's a generational issue. It doesn't seem to me like it's anything that I'm not ruining my kids. I don't feel bad. I have no guilt over it. They're not bad people because they drop F-bombs. It's funny. Like, it humors me when they cuss sometimes. Like, they get on the Oculus. There's this game called Gorilla Tag, excuse me.
Yeah.
And it's just some weird, like, it's really low-res game. Like, the graphics are really terrible in it. But it's like, it's kind of like a social whatever, like a bunch of kids, and you all look like gorillas, and you run around, and it's literally a tag game in VR. It's like the actual game itself is this tag, but most of the time they just hang out and they're talking to friends or people or whatever, and they're trying to do little mini sub games on this shit. And it's just funny. You fucking retard. And it's like, whoa, don't say retard. That's not okay. Like literally, I've made that statement, and it's like you could. I don't care about the fuck part. Just no retard.
Right.
That's not okay. And so it's just one of those. Like, that's how I am as a parent. So you can't. You just can't use that word. So.
That one's more okay than that okay.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. And again, it's like, like it's fun because like I could hear them, like they use them correctly sometimes, and they use them incorrectly sometimes. It's hilarious. But like, yeah. Anyway, like it's my kid's cussing story. Facebook has something exciting to tell me.
Goody.
Shut up, Glenn. Oh, we got a drunk Santa at the shop that looks like God, what is his name? He looks like the dad from Boondock Saints.
Think so?
A little bit. Maybe it's just that hat, the Scully, or whatever those are called. No, don't do it. Whatever you're doing, Facebook, don't do it.
Make it stop.
Try to start a video on accident. Talking shit about you banning me, and all of a sudden you're getting all testy. So. I don't know. What was the... Oh, we got a black bear running around downtown. That's pretty exciting. Now, was it you that was telling me that the cops are like, we can't really do anything about it?
No.
Somebody said something about the cops.
I looked at one of the pictures, and I was like, that can't be current. Because it was saying it was, early December, but I think it was like the picture of the parking lot made it look like it was in, like, snow. And I'm like, that's not
ain't
real.
No snow this year.
Yeah, there's fucking snow in that. I guess it was just like a really like light gray parking lot that the bear was in or whatever.
Yeah, it was one of the parking garages. It was a city garage. I don't remember which one they said it was. but is one of the ones that's owned by the city. But apparently he's hanging out down there near the dog park off the old city.
I got so close.
Might have gotten into that cocaine. I'm gonna watch that movie when it comes out. I'm excited. Cocaine Bear.
I'm not.
I mean, I
don't remember that even happening when it did happen.
I don't remember, when did it happen?
I don't even know.
I mean, I don't.
Sometime in like the 90s or 2000s, the aughts maybe.
All right, let's see here. Let's see what the internet. Tell me something cool, internet.
Cocaine Bear. Spell cocaine wrong.
No,
don't you know how to spell cocaine?
Is Cocaine Bear a real story? The film is inspired by a story of a 175-pound American black bear that died after ingesting a duffel bag full of cocaine in December.
Yeah, somebody told me they thought it could have been, what's his name? Ray Liotta. That might be one of his last films that he ever did.
I believe it was. I believe I heard that as well, that it is the last film to be released that he's in.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple other ones that have already released. Cocaine Bear is an upcoming American black comedy thriller film. Like the wiki is the movie, not the actual story itself.
Directed by Elizabeth Banks. Isn't that Jesse from Saved by the Bell?
Oh. No,
different. No.
All right. In one of his final performances before his death.
Okay.
The film is inspired by the real story of the 175-pound American black bear that died in December 1985. The cocaine had been dropped out of an airplane by Mr. Thornton II, a former narcotics officer and convicted drug smuggler. Of course, he was a narco who quit being a cop and went to continue smuggling drugs after the fact. Anyway, because his plane was carrying too heavy a load, he jumped off the plane with a faulty parachute and died. The bear was found 3 months later in the north of the state of Georgia alongside 40 unopened plastic containers of cocaine. The bear is on display at the Kentucky for Kentucky Fun Mall in Lexington. His name is Cocaine Bear. But apparently
I'm curious to see what the placard is for this bear that is on display at a mall, either Kentucky for Fun Mall or whatever.
Yeah, how do you explain that to kids at the mall?
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Interesting.
But there's some sort of direct Knoxville connection in it.
I think it was filmed here.
I thought
it was supposed to be set somewhere around here, but
I think it's...
They're talking about Kentucky, but then it was found in Georgia. I guess it had to go through the Smokies at some point.
I think the real story is that the bear and the cocaine met up here. There's something like... somebody was talking about... some of the drop was in the Island Home area. Oh. And that the bear might have got into it there or something like that. I don't know. I also thought that the true story had the bear killed somebody. Where the movie apparently is the bear's killing everybody. But yeah, I'm going to watch that.
Fun.
It's going to be ridiculous. I watched Bullet Train, the new Bradley Pitt movie. That was fun.
Yeah, was it good?
Yeah, it's very fun.
Awesome.
It's very exciting.
I haven't seen a quote-unquote new movie in a while.
All right, so we were talking about this the other day. A Christmas Carol, right? Like the Christmas movie, I guess it's a play originally. Well, it was a book. Right. It's a Dickens book. Right.
Correct.
But it's been adapted a gajillion times for stage or screen or whatever.
Right.
Do you have a favorite version? I do.
Not off the top of my head.
Bill Murray in Scrooge.
Scrooged.
Absolutely the best. It is a movie about making the movie A Christmas Carol that is a Christmas Carol. It's fucking genius.
Right. That's definitely
There's layers of this
shit. A classic.
There's layers, and it's got fucking Tom Waits as the Ghost of Christmas Past as the drunk New York cabbie. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And then Death itself is the Christmas Future. Fantastic movie. The best version of Christmas Carol, by far. I enjoyed the Mickey one. The Muppet one's great. All the things are good.
I can't remember who it was that did it. Jim Carrey did it. It was kind of a CG animated version of it. That I think Jim Carrey played like two parts of it. He played Scrooge and like the future guy.
Yep.
I thought that was a pretty good version of it.
I don't know if I've seen
mainly because it was kind of cinematically pretty.
I don't know if I've seen that one. Let's see here. Performance and adaptations.
Oh, it's going to give you a bunch of shit.
Yeah. So I was hoping for... Yeah, apparently there's an old English one that's supposed to be really good. Black and white. Like a very true to form, like the original, as close to the original as the original gets. Anyway, that was a thought I'd had the other day that I thought would entice some interesting conversation.
A Christmas Carol story.
Right, the best after. I mean, it's like one of those that's been adapted so many times. Like, there's a few songs that do that too. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there's like that song that's been covered 50 times, and everybody's version is okay. Some versions are better than other versions, but it's just been. It's an adaptable story, or like I said, in a song. If there's a song out there that I can't think of, but people adapt it and put their own feel to it and make it their own, and it's very good in its own right. I think Scrooge is the best of the best.
It's a great one.
I'm gonna have to. It's on. I think it's on the Amazon Prime for you streamers out there.
Nice.
Y'all want to watch that shit? And then Jesse asked me today while we were taping his show what my favorite Christmas Carol is. And I don't know. I mean,
is Carol of the Bells considered a carol?
It's a good one. I mean,
it's in the title.
It's a it's a good one. Green Sleeves. That's not really technically a Christmas song. It's often used around the Christmas time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, if you're gonna get like hardcore, it's like it's got to be one that you sing at people's doorsteps. Carol. I don't know. That Beatles one that's kind of depressing. And so this is Christmas.
Yeah, that's just a straight John Lennon one.
Oh, it's just John Lennon?
Yeah, the war is over.
What have you done? That one?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think about it. I need to put more thought into it.
That came on the other day at the shop, and Buddy and I were kind of like, hadn't really thought about, I guess, the lyrics of it, but like, the war is over if you want it.
It's a really depressing
it doesn't really work that way. I mean, it was right at the tail end of Vietnam. Or, it came out after Vietnam.
Yeah.
We were both like, I was kind of thinking, and then he actually said it out loud, and I was like, I never thought about that, but yeah, like, wait, like, the war's over if you want it? Like, war doesn't really stop like that. Like, you may want the war to be over, but the other side may not want the war to be over yet.
Right.
So
you
can't just be like,
just up to you. Right.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, because you got to think about it, because you have Imagine, which is another one that's like touted as a certain thing, but I don't really take it like I think most people do. To me, it's like I think the Imagine is kind of sad, but everybody takes it as like, well, if we didn't have to deal with all this bullshit, it's like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool, but a lot of that is the point of life kind of stuff.
Not necessarily.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and do it. I mean, Forrest Gump taught him, like, help him come up with the song, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do. No countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. I'm not the only one. No possessions. No possessions? No, I'm thinking about the movie. I don't know. I'll have to think more about that. Maybe I was a little off the cuff. It's been a while.
Did you see the thing about Lawrence Livermore?
Who's Lawrence Livermore?
It's a research facility.
Oh, the
They
fusion?
did the fusion,
shit? Yeah. That scares the fuck out of me. I'm sorry.
I didn't read like a whole lot about it.
Well, like the lab or whatever.
They said they were able to produce more energy than it took to start the reaction.
Right. And they're talking about like a cup of seawater with as the technology develops, like a cup of seawater could power a standard American household for 100 years.
Huh.
And it's like, that's fucking amazing. It could also probably wipe us off the map.
Right.
Just going on a limb. I don't understand fusion. Or fission, for that matter, if we're going to be honest about it. But the fission part could kill a whole lot of people. You know, if this Ukraine shit gets worse. But anyway. We're not going there.
Well, that was the worry about the whole, like, CERN. And there's a few different places around the world that have
the large hadron colliders.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing with
it's like you're going to create a black hole
with this lab or whatever. I mean, that's the goal. They wanted to create a black hole, just not one that would like it's just itty bitty and go away in like a fraction of a second or whatever. But the lab,
but that kind of energy.
This lab that figured out the fusion thing started as it was either like a spin-off inside the Manhattan Project or it was the Manhattan Project itself, and it was a nuclear fission lab that was trying to commercialize the technology of the nuclear bomb into an energy. And then they quit doing that and started on the fusion.
Huh.
But like their history is in weapons, either development or back engineering weapons into power sources. I don't remember the exacts of the story. But their history is in the development of the nuclear bomb.
I could see it in a roundabout way of the technology of either dividing an atom or trying to fuse atoms.
Right. Well, like the thing is,
I don't know how much they were kind of developed in conjunction.
The hard part about the fusion issue is that the sun does it because it's so damn massive.
Right.
So there's so much gravitational pressure.
Right. I mean, there's definitely that danger of creating greater energy out of something that it took to create and then trying to harness essentially kind of harness that growing potential of power to not have it.
Right, because it'll just like what stops it from continuing to grow.
Right. Because even our early versions of the atomic bomb, which was nuclear fission, like splitting the atom, created a lot more destruction.
Chain reaction, right.
Right. Created a lot more than we ever thought it would. Yeah. Like, oh, fuck, like, damn.
This is a big deal.
This can fuck some shit up.
Some GIs just hanging out with their goggles on, they'll be fine.
Yeah. Put your dust mask on.
Your aviators, and you're fine. Don't worry about it. I mean, Indiana Jones survived one.
Take that handkerchief, put it over your mouth.
Indiana Jones survived it in the refrigerator, so.
It's true.
That was like the most...
Because it was lead-lined.
That was the most, like... It's Indiana Jones. It's a little bit ridiculous. Like,
was that in the newer one?
Yeah.
Somebody was asking about that the other night.
There's another newer one coming out.
Yeah. I haven't even seen like the
but
newer.
But it's Shia LaBeouf.
Goody.
Shia LaBeouf. But, I mean, it wasn't bad. It was the Crystal Skulls, that whole, the crazy power of the Crystal Skulls. The aliens came and dropped it off kind of thing. That was because, I mean, all the Indiana Jones movies are on that, like, kind of X-Files-y thing. That's the whatever. But that's what I'm saying. You had the melting faces in the Ark thing,
right?
And that didn't bother me as much as Indiana Jones at 70 jumping into a refrigerator and getting flung from a house in a test site and surviving. Like all the shit in Indiana Jones, like that one is just like I can't. And that was right at the beginning of the movie, and so the rest of the movie I was like I just can't. I'm done.
I didn't see that one.
No more. But I enjoy. I mean, it was still fun. It was still silly fun. That's what the Indiana Jones movies are. But Raiders of the Lost Ark is the best of the best in the Indiana Jones thing. Since I'm putting out my opinion on the most important things.
It's the one in South America.
What?
The whole like Kalima.
No, that's Temple of Doom.
That's Temple of Doom. Okay.
No, Raiders of the Lost Ark is the Nazis.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And they find the
Ark.
The Ark of the Covenant.
Better not open that shit.
Well, they do, and then the Nazis' face melts.
Vaporize people.
Like it melts like straight up like a candle. Like it's terrible CGI. Well, it's not even CGI, I guess is why it was terrible CGI, but it was not the greatest visual effects coming out of a George Lucas thing compared to the other stuff he'd done at the time. But
It was good for the time. Well, yeah.
it's still like, I mean, like it wasn't like it was bad, but
It was okay for the time, I guess.
right. But it wasn't like it wasn't just so like it wasn't so ridiculous that I lost all suspend disbelief for a movie about the Ark. The melting face didn't bother me near as much as this refrigerator incident.
Yeah.
But I don't know. See, I didn't like Short Fry that much. I think that was my problem with Temple of Doom.
Right.
Very scary, Dr. Jones. It's racist.
That's the nickname I was trying to remember the other day. When some guy was asking me if I'd seen the new one, he's like, they said they brought back one of the characters.
But they brought back
in one of the newer movies. I was trying to remember. I was like, yeah, we were like a little kid. Like he had a hat, but I can't remember like what Indiana Jones kept calling him. I thought he was calling him like Haji, but I think I was misremembering it and mixing it up with something else. I think that was like a cartoon TV show that had some side character called Haji.
Oh God, what was that? They did like an Adult Swim reboot of it.
Yeah.
Venture Bros.
Venture Brothers, yeah. Something like
that. But that wasn't the original. There was an original cartoon.
Right.
God, that is weird. Oh, okay. Did you see the Aqua Teen movie?
What?
They got an Aqua Teen movie.
What?
I haven't seen it, but there's an Aqua Teen movie coming out. It either came out or it's coming out.
Hell yeah.
I know you were a fan. Because we are the Aqua Teen.
I can't remember what I was watching with that.
2022.
They had a handful of free episodes. I caught a couple like versions. It was like 2 episodes of some of like the newer seasons or whatever. Oh shit!
I miss being part of a team. Y'all remember Aqua Team?
We gonna get in trouble for this?
Probably. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I'll never speak with him again.
Sure you're up for this, Phoenix? I live on for 15 years, man.
This thing, Aqua Teen, we're in this for life. No one just walks away.
Too wicked.
You're welcome.
All right. So, it's on. You can rent it right now on Prime for $6. I'm trying to see. I guess it's released already. So,
Nice. Yes, I still can't pull myself to buy any of the subscriptions.
we've done it. What did we rent?
services.
Oh, it's just subscription stuff. Man, I don't know.
Right.
If you're gonna spend, if you're gonna watch, you're gonna watch. If you're not, you're not. If you're not gonna watch, then no, it's not worth it. But
That's the thing.
I mean,
there's a handful of shows on some random different things that I would be interested in, and that's the thing that's the drawback to it. That I don't want to spend that much for a handful of shows that I may want to watch.
Of the major players, Apple's the worst. Ted Lasso is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean that's a show that I've never seen like a complete episode of, but I've heard it's great.
Loot,
and I'm like, I'd like to see that, but I don't want to buy an Apple
right,
subscription.
$100 a year or whatever. Yeah,
right.
But like Loot, that Maya Rudolph one was really fun and really good, and they've got a couple other ones on there. But if you break it down by like hours watched to dollars spent, for us at least, it's by far the most expensive. Now, Prime is a little bit different. Amazon Prime is the most worth it to me because we buy a bunch of shit on Amazon, and we are Prime members for the free shipping and stuff like that.
Right.
And we also get, and Prime's done some really good stuff, like originals. They'd have a Jack Ryan one that's really good.
It's good originals.
They've got the Grand Tour. And there's Jeremy Clarkson Bought a Farm, which is a really funny series. And so they've got some pretty good original stuff. But the thing about Amazon and Apple is, and I think Hulu does it too, is you could subscribe inside the subscription. And so there's channels available for an additional X, which is kind of cool, but kind of weird.
Right. I mean, it's designed correctly to, if you want more sports or you want more movies or you want more TV shows, you can subscribe to just
Right.
one or the other.
Yeah.
Which I think that was the one drawback to a lot of the cable and satellite providers as they started growing. So like, hey, you got access to
Right.
2,000 channels.
I mean,
it's
that's
like, well, that's great. I can't watch most of them, and I pretty much only got this just so I could watch blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah.
I want to watch SportsCenter. And
Like I got DirecTV or whatever that's got 2,000 channels, but I got to buy this extra thing just to watch some NFL games.
Right.
Like, oh, you got to buy the NFL pass.
right. Well, which is, I mean, and the gross part really is that, like, for a lot of channels, that's the only reason they can exist. Like, you have some of, like, especially like the,
But even like with the sports passes, it's like you're basically buying access to any and all, which may be cool for some people, but most
Right.
people are like, I don't want to watch that team or that team or that team or that team or that team.
right. Well, yeah, because, I mean, like, when I was at the bar many moons ago, we got
Like,
the
but-
NFL ticket.
But we give you access to all of them. It's like, but I literally have no way to watch all of them. I don't want to watch all of them.
Right. I just want
And
to
they're
watch
like,
them.
well, sorry, it's
I
more-
want to watch my team, who isn't my local team, which means I don't get to watch them all the time.
right.
And for my ability to watch my team, I have to pay for access to all teams. Like, and it ain't cheap. And like, it's even like business service is even worse. I can't remember how much we paid annually at the bar for NFL ticket. And it's kind of cool. We have 15 TVs, so we can put every single game on somewhere in the room.
Right.
So it's worth it in that sense. But I mean, it is expensive.
Right, because you're buying access to all of them. And they had no way to kind of like piecemeal out. Like,
Yeah.
hey, can you just give me the Southeast teams or
Right.
Southwest teams?
No. And so, but yeah, to me, Apple is the least cost effective. Amazon is probably the most cost effective. Netflix, it used to be really great and used to be kind of the core channel for us, but that's kind of fallen off. It's still pretty good. They had the Bullet Train. That's where we watched the Bullet Train. It was on Netflix, so it's good. It's Bradley Pitt, handsome bastard.
I bet on Netflix in a while.
It's a, it's like a modern Tokyo film. Like, it's a very Japanese style adventure film, I guess.
Action adventure.
Yeah, like super. I mean, it's set in Japan to boot, but it's of the style. It's interesting. It's a weird little like Hitman-ish kind of thing. I don't know. It's a fun movie. It's silly. Brad Pitt's characters
Silly.
hilarious. But yeah, Netflix, Hulu's okay. Hulu's shut up, computer. Hulu is probably the worst. Hulu is the best for some of the like major network stuff. So like CBS has been airing Celebrity Jeopardy. And there's like a big Celebrity Jeopardy tournament going on. But it's like Sunday nights at 9 o'clock, which is the middle of trying to get everything back for the week and all that kind of crap. So we can never watch it live. And so that's my favorite place to catch a replay of that. Yeah. And then we buy some of the cool stuff in the streaming world is where you can get single channels. There's this History Hit channel that she likes. And it's just like archaeological digs and shit like that constantly. And it's like just cool little mini documentaries about like dig site here, dig site there, history of this thing. That's one of those add-on channels that Amazon does. So, yeah. The bear's here. I want to talk about that.
What?
The bear running around downtown. I want to talk about that. I'm trying to think of things I
We
wanted
already
to.
did.
I know. I'm trying to remember what all I had on my list of things to chat
gotcha,
about.
Gotcha.
Did you read the pork report at all?
I started to, but I tried to look at it on my phone. It was not a good place to try to look at it.
It's a little bit. It's a hard read. I didn't get through much of it either.
It was just so small. I was trying to like zoom in, and it messes with me trying to like look left and right when
Yeah.
you're trying to zoom in on a paragraph.
And it's a. So anyway, beacontn.org, who's a
Started out kind of edgy, and I was like,
Beacon Center. Yeah, that was kind of the thing.
yeah, it started
Betraying
out
taxpayers.
Betraying taxpayers. I was like,
Well, but I mean,
okay,
but it really
let me
goes
look
like
at this on another
like if you go down through the whole thing, like one of the things they bitch about or they complain about the spending on different the Titan Stadium, the $500 million the state's looking at contributing to the new Titan Stadium, the $13 million or whatever they're spending on ours, that kind of stuff. You know, and so it's kind of picking apart things that take money and take time and. We're trying to heat the neighborhood. Savage children. It's cold outside. Anyway, interrupted by kids. Anyway, they try to pick out some of that stuff. But it goes back to what I was saying last week. Like I was a little drunk last week, like as per usual. But we got rolling on stuff about taxes and shit like this. And it's like, I will, for the sake of conversation, I will grant that the services that the state provides are necessities. And the different departments that we have within the state, for the sake of conversation, I will admit their need to exist. But it is clear over the last handful of years that they are funding to the level that we as an electorate deem necessary because we keep re-electing these people to manage it. And we are not spending it as a state. Now, 1 year of that, 2 years of that, setting a little back pile up, okay. But 3, 4, 5 years in a row that you continue to collect money that you're not spending, you need to spend it or stop collecting it.
They're investing it.
They're not investing it. They're saving it.
I thought part of that was investing it into certain state bonds or whatever that are accruing interest.
But that's saving. That's not investing. It's just a yield. It's a yielded savings. Investing, in the context, to me at least, in the context, investing is you're doing something with it for the future. Now, putting it over here so it gets bigger over time for the future, that's just a good yield savings. Investing would be we're building new roadways. We're buying assets that the state can own that are investments for the future. That's investing. Yeah. To me. In the context of this. Yes, the term investing applies. Yeah, you're not wrong, but to me that's not investing, that's just saving. And again, I'm not saying we shouldn't have some savings in place, but I think we need to pick a number, a percentage of the annual budget, whatever it is, and that is the max. We can't just keep saving it up for a rainy day that apparently will never come. You pick a number, cut it off at that number, and I think honestly, keep collecting it, but I think there should be a mandatory return. If you don't spend it, we send it back. Because I bet you know what they're going to do? What? Spend it. They ain't going to send it back.
They ain't going to spend it.
Fucking way they're going to send it back.
We're holding on to shit.
They're going to spend it probably on some stupid shit. But, because that's what gets me about the art. Like, again, I'm not going to fall down the rabbit hole of more money equals better schools automatically. It certainly would help, but it doesn't make it so. Doubling the amount we spend on schools wouldn't make our schools better. It could get us on a path to make our schools better, but it doesn't just make our schools better.
Right.
But
how you use that money,
right? But if we, if we have this money, if we're collecting this money, we need to do something with it. And if the argument why we can't keep enough teachers or custodians, apparently at this point, have you heard that whole conversation?
Here we were, looking to outsource.
It wasn't outsource. Outsource is a misnomer.
Privately contract.
Right. But it's not outsource. Outsource usually, generally speaking, outsource means you're removing it from your purview.
Right.
And adding in this company to replace it.
Right.
The problem that Ryswick is having is that they cannot keep enough on staff, and so they're going to bring in a third party to supplement the staff they have. So they're not firing anybody. It was just, we need 20 more now.
Right.
And we can't hire 20 people, apparently, so let's get this company to come in and take care of it. So it's a little bit of a misnomer, and that's one of those that it played out. It played out that way in the papers and stuff like that. That people were like, they're outsourcing, they're going to fire all our janitors and replace them with private company bullshit. It's like, no, that's not what he was saying at all. He was saying that we need more, and we can't figure out how to hire them and retain them. So we're going to bring in a company to sub in for the gaps. Like, apparently, like not Hardin Valley.
Well, I mean, it's on an unheard of fear. To where once they did start bringing people in, if the
Right.
City or county looked at it and was like, well, we could save a lot more money if we just exclusively outsourced.
Right. And they may not fire anybody.
Right.
They'll just not hire and retire and
Right.
retire and retire.
That's right, yeah, because they are county employees.
Yeah. So they don't have to fire them. They just
Yeah, I guess
don't
that does
hire
make
any
it a
new
little
ones.
different. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if they were already going through a third party for it anyway.
No, it's they are employees of Knox County Schools. So, anyway, point being, I think we need to figure out. I think it needs to be a real conversation in the state session coming up. I don't think it's, especially if we're the Republicans. You know, fiscally conservative. Okay, good job. You're not spending a lot of money. You shouldn't be taking it. That's part of your platform. Low taxes. Well, if you're taking more than you're spending, then the taxes are too high. But I don't know. I think the city finally got us our inspection passed. It's been a fucking shit show. I'm really mad about that. It's just dumb. Like, it's just, I don't know. So, again, I'll acknowledge, for the sake of conversation, the need for building inspectors to come out and make sure a building is not going to fall on people when they come inside. I'll acknowledge the need for that thing to exist. But it should be and is designed to be a benefit to the business, not the public. It's to protect the public, but a benefit to the business, in the sense that our insurance liability would be through the roof if nobody came in and said the building is going to stay standing, right? So it helps keep our insurance down and makes us less likely to have a giant payout in the future because our building collapses on somebody, right? But you would think that the design of that would be, we want to help businesses open and safely operate for the public. Not, we're just here to check boxes and go about our day, and we don't really give a shit about you or your company or whatever you're trying to do or your money. Like, it just doesn't, like, it was such a frustrating process, because it's like, there's a checklist that this inspector comes in. It's not on paper. It's in their head. They've done it 1,000 times. But there's a checklist that they go through when they're doing one of these inspections.
Right.
I don't know what that checklist is. How am I to prepare a site for a checklist that I don't know what it is?
You have no access to it?
No, it's not a thing. It's just you. I mean, I guess if you've been in it for a while, if you've done 1,000 projects, if you're a contractor that does a lot of work in a certain field, you know what the inspector's looking for. But if you're just a lay person, there is no... Now, this is something the city is apparently working on, that they're putting together a packet.
Okay.
That when you come in and ask for a business license, they give you a packet. Here's all the shit that you got to do. Here's all the inspections you're going to have. And when you have these inspections, these are what they're looking for.
I was going to say, it should be on, like, this city or
county. It's not a current thing that exists.
Huh.
Because I've asked around, not the inspector themselves, because I didn't talk to them if I didn't have to. Because, like, I'm sitting here freaking out like I'm going to piss them off and make it worse. And, I mean, it was 8 weeks from our first inspection to get this one inspection passed. It's not even all of our inspections.
Right.
And it's just like, hey, man, okay, cool. What are you looking at? Okay, I see what you mean. We screwed that one up. We'll fix that. What else are you looking at? No, they're just gone. And it's like, okay, well, we fixed that thing you told us to fix. Come on back.
All right.
I mean, just on the waste of money, this guy's time. Because he ended up coming back 4 times. It's like, if you would have told us from the get-go all the things we screwed up, we would have fixed all the things, and you only would come twice. And we'd be open already. Not spending money, we'd be making money. Well, probably losing a little bit of money, but that's part of the process, whatever. But instead, it was like, well, I need this information. The last guy here said that was fine. Well, I'm not going to pass this unless I have this information. This last one was like, how many BTUs is your water heater? Fuck, I don't know. Last guy didn't ask that. He didn't say anything about that. Last guy said, you guys are fine except for this.
All right.
And so we made sure that thing was fixed, called him back. And now the next guy comes in and says something else is wrong. And it's like, what are we supposed to do here? You know?
I mean, I don't know if that's just part of one person being more stringent upon the regulations or whatever.
Which that is almost worse to me than it being a pain in the ass.
Right.
The idea that there's one guy that's like, I don't fucking care, you're fine.
But in the same token, I would also, I guess not, I wouldn't disagree with them as much as you being like, okay, well, tell me like exactly like what needed to fix, just to prevent someone from like half-assing something. It's like, oh, you need to have a cover over that, and they're like, okay, well, let me glue throw some duct tape on that shit.
Well, if the glued-on duct tape is enough to pass the inspection, then what's the matter? Again, what's the point? Like, what's the point of the inspection? The assumption is the point of the inspection is that you have a safe building that's not going to fall. In our particular case, on this one, it's a gas line. We're getting like, oh, there's a couple of problems with this one specifically. This is gas. This inspection was inspection from the city to get permission from the city so that we could have KUB install a meter.
Right.
And it's like, well, I don't know. I'm not saying the responsibility of making sure the gas inside the building is right isn't our responsibility it's technically the building owner's responsibility, but that the end user isn't responsible. I agree the premise that the end user is responsible for making sure that was right. But wouldn't you think KUB would have some like professional want to not just throw a meter on that into a building that who knows what the gas is hooked up to? Wouldn't you think that maybe KUB could be the one that's responsible for making sure the building is prepared to take gas?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, you have KUB set up at your house. They're not responsible if you have a gas leak.
I agree with that, but I'm just saying, like, wouldn't it be more efficient if KUB was to be the ones to say, we come put the meter on, do the pressure test. Well, we put the pressure test before a meter on, which is basically a way to check to make sure there's no leaks. And, yeah, all right, I get that. I'll take that back a little bit. All right, I'm not sure. Because then we have to get KUB to come out, put the meter on, and then we have to have the city come back after the gas is on to inspect it again. It's just like, well, what was the first inspection if the second... I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's too damn complicated. It pisses me off. It should be... To me, like the beer board does it right, even though the beer board's not really... They're just like the beginning of a process. Like, the premise should be to do everything they can to get it done for the business and get that business open. Unless they're picking and choosing types of businesses that they like and they want to be punitive on a certain type of business and they want to be supportive of another type of business, which they do at some level, obviously, TIFs and pilots and all that other kind of shit. But, unless that's part of the process, is like, oh, it's another bar opening, take your time, there's no rush on those guys. But, hey, Mr. Boyd wants to put a thing over here, get on it.
Yeah. Sure, that happens.
But to me, like the customer service premise would be, and I know I would get in trouble for likening any government process to operate like a business, but if you're the boss, if you're the office of inspections, I would think you look better when you were going out and helping businesses get their shit done and get open, instead of being a pain in the ass and making it difficult and making me not want to do business. Or, hey, somebody comes into town and it's like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing the thing over here. I was going to invest $2 million in this little property over here and build a thing. Your neighbor, how's it going down here? How's the city work with you? Because I've had this conversation with other business owners over time. It's like, how's it, like the guy that bought the building that we're renting is from California. And he's like, how's the city here on doing stuff? This is my first building or second building in town or whatever, and I'm just starting to get everything moving here. It's like, it's not the easiest thing to deal with. He's like, well, California ain't no picnic either. And it's like, I don't know how to compare it to California, but like these are conversations that business owners have.
All right.
Like Knoxville Chamber. I don't know if you read this article the Compass put out. It was the new imaginary economy. Mm-mm. We're coming out of the information age into the imagination age. And the Commerce is trying to figure out how to assist the city in building this infrastructure and stuff we need to excel in the new imagination age of economics. I don't really understand it. I tried to read it. But the types of jobs that are coming down the pipeline in the future, I ask that question all the time. What are my kids going to do when they graduate high school? What are the jobs going to be? It's like computer engineers and stuff like that. It's the easy stuff that we know the answer to. But, and so Commerce is trying to look ahead and help the city plan on how to attract the type of businesses that will employ our kids when they get out of high school, college, so that we keep our kids here, or more people move into Knoxville, and we keep the economy up and positive and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, if anybody from out of state is looking at putting an office or a business in Knoxville and they ask me about it, I'd be like, I don't know what to compare it to, but it's not easy. They're not forthcoming. They don't make it easy. They make it difficult. And that's not what the city wants. Anybody at the city on the executive level, either the mayor's office, city council, top levels of all these departments that do the inspections, that's not what they want. They go out there in public statements, talk all the time. We want this to be an easy city for businesses to want to come here and invest in. Well, maybe I'm not big and important enough or whatever, but it's not been an easy process. It's never been an easy process anytime we've done it. This one's been the most difficult. But it's not an easy process. And that's not what the city wants. And so I don't know what their plan is. Apparently they're working on some stuff to change that. And hopefully it works. And hopefully this is the last bitchy bullshit from the last guy to have to go through the old process before the new one comes in. Hopefully. But again, like, there are people out there, like Burleson, he doesn't give a shit. It's easy for him. Like a Burleson or a Boyd, they've done it a million times. Plus, they move enough weight around this town that the city makes sure that it's easier for them.
Right.
And so I think I think the goal should be to make it easier. Not easier as in less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less safe for public. Easier in, what do we need to do? How can we
streamlining
help?
The process?
Right. Make it I mean, I guess easier in the sense is make known what you want, city, so that I can abide. If you don't tell me what you want, I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, we need outlets spaced this far apart,
right,
or whatever.
I mean, like, I don't know, it's a power fan on your water heater exhaust. That was one of our failures. Like, we failed it. Everything else was fine, but the water heater we had didn't have a powered exhaust. It just had a straight pipe that went up through the ceiling, hot air rises kind of thing, exhausting the water heater.
Yeah.
Well, that's not good enough. It needed to have a fan that blew it out, which apparently isn't an aftermarket thing. You have to buy a water heater with one in it. So we had to go get another water heater, get a plumber to come out, take the old one out, put the new one in. Money, time. Which, had we known that as a point of issue from the beginning, we would happily have done so.
All right.
Now, I don't know. Maybe I should have known. Maybe a plumber that we hired to put in the first water heater should have known. Actually, the landlord did it, but that's a separate thing. Maybe somebody who, in any of the different processes, should have known. But how should they have known? Because they've done it before? That's not enough for me. Anyway, long bitchy about the city thing. But this part is passed. Hopefully the rest we can smooth out and run out and get down to business and at least open for New Year's, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
We were hoping to be open 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, 6 weeks ago, but then we should have the bar open by now. We should be getting our liquor license, which we can't get until we get open. Well, right. Not sure we can get it before, but we can't really get until we get open. Look out for a sweet rum and brandy bar, people. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited. Maybe it's Homer and me, but it looks cool. Like, I like the feel. I like the way it's coming together. I just wish it was already together and done with.
All in good time.
Yeah. Any housing developments for you?
Put an application. Haven't heard anything back yet. I actually need to call them and make sure that I applied to the right thing and didn't get scammed. But
application with an apartment complex or an application with?
They're a company that does, I guess, that owns multiple apartment complexes. So I'm pretty sure I was on their official website. Just need to make sure.
A property management group.
Pretty much,
yeah.
Which I almost want to call.
Well, if you need a reference,
I almost want to call them and ask them, be like, hey, if I put an application in, because when you do it online, you have to pick a specific apartment complex you're applying to. But I would also assume that quote unquote application fee would then apply to any of their other properties.
So weird.
It's like, if you don't have availability of this property, I don't want no.
Why do you need to have an application fee at all? That's weird. It's like Sam's Club. You got to buy a membership so that you can buy shit.
Yeah, but it's one of those weird things. I mean, the apartment complexes are running background checks, which, from what I've heard, are like $5 or $6 for most people that get an account with a credit agency or whatever that are doing multiple credit checks or whatever.
Yeah, it's fairly inexpensive when you're doing it in the volume there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like I've looked into, and we've talked about it as a.
I don't know if it's a discouragement as well of people of just trying to apply at 50 different apartment complexes.
I don't know. Like at least the only thing that matters is can you pay the fucking rent and.
I mean, that's the only I could think in times of when they were getting a whole bunch of people like applying left and right, and they're like, all right, we got to run credit checks on
and Knoxville's
all these people.
And Knoxville is in one of those times where the demand is outweighing the supply.
And it's like, all right, if you're going to apply here, like it's going to cost you to apply here.
You better be serious. I mean, at least I don't know. If it's me, I'm at least going to be like, if there's a way to do it, I would do it as like a very expensive application fee, but it will be part of your deposit. So if your deposit is first and last month or whatever,
right,
I'll do like a $500 application fee, but it'll come off of your first and last month deposit. Because like you said, it's a good way to keep people out that really shouldn't.
Right.
They can't afford it. It's above their, it's above their credit or whatever. It's a way to keep people from applying that just really shouldn't be applying, so that they're not like, spam applying to all apartment complexes. But it's also, I don't know, not to that, just seems kind of douchey. Because it's not that expensive to do the paperwork. Until it might get, once you get the actual paperwork with the lease agreement and all that kind of stuff, that might get a little bit more costly because that's a legal document as opposed to.
I mean, I don't know what it's costing them to have that person run that credit check and fill out the paperwork and process the paperwork or whatever. Pay that person to be there for that time.
That's the same person that's taking the rent checks, depositing them in the bank,
right,
filling out the paperwork for the income and the expenses for the month and that kind of shit. I mean, I think you're right. I think it's a design deterrent to try to keep people from applying that aren't going to pass in the first place.
Man.
Even if it's only $25, it's $25 that I'm not going to spend if I know you're not going to approve me.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't. Goes back to the whole housing conversation in the grand scheme of things. Like, I still don't know where all the people are. Where they're going here all day. I mean, I see them in traffic sometimes. I ran into a turkey. That was a fun story. I'll go back to that one. But it's very confusing.
Because I think part of it. I don't think we run into it as much here in Knoxville, as far as I know. But you have people that have properties that are just Airbnb properties.
Yeah,
and it's become more of an issue in more like Gatlinburg,
here too. Yeah,
type areas.
Yeah, I saw a map of New York. There was like a map of New York City, and it was like purple are Airbnb properties, yellow was one of the other companies or whatever, and it was just
right.
The whole city. It's all over the place.
Right, and that's people that have the money to buy and own these places that can afford to just rent them out and make lots of money.
Well, and the Airbnb is a much more lucrative. It's probably a little harder. It's more effort, but well worth it because you're looking at you rent a weekend.
Right. You can pay a cleaning company to go in there and clean that stuff.
Right, but you rent 2 weekends and you pay, and that would be equivalent to what you'd probably get a full month rent for if you were just straight renting it.
Right.
But again, how many people?
I mean, in many other markets, you have, essentially subdivisions and neighborhoods that have that same issue of the Airbnbs that have put, regulations in place for the homeowners association of like, hey, you can't own this house and have it be an Airbnb. I
mean, I don't like the premise of. I mean, homeowners fine because you agree to that when you buy the house. That's part of that is a voluntary exchange. But like they were talking about it in city council or county commission a couple weeks ago, is changing some of the ordinances as far as concerning short-term rental licensures. One, Airbnb and the other companies don't obligate you to have a license to use their service. Mm-hmm. You could just straight do like a little website of your house that says, "Hey, come rent my house for a weekend.
Right.
No license. Theoretically, the license required, but it's like since whatever ordinance was put into place, it's only been prosecuted like once, and it's been years of it being in place. But even on that, though, like I see how it's profitable from the owner's standpoint to an extent, but like, are that many people traveling to Knoxville that would take an Airbnb over a hotel for a weekend?
Yeah.
Like, have we seen a drop in our hotel stays as a result?
I mean, I would doubt it, but I think more people would be more willing to.
I prefer it. I get it. I mean, I would prefer that as an option
Right.
if I was going to travel into a town for a couple days.
But I think that's the issue with it, is that most people that are looking to go to somewhere and stay somewhere would much rather stay in a small little house versus staying in a hotel room.
But that's when I bet that's when I.
That adds to the encouragement of people that own these homes
to
having
Airbnb them.
to
Right.
Airbnb them,
But my point,
which takes away from the housing market.
but my return on that would be, I don't know, and I don't know this obviously, but I haven't heard anything that the Airbnb market is damaging the hotel motels, because especially for the county with how much the hotel motels are impactful to that. Can you give me that big fuck truly in there? Unless you want it. Do you want it? All right. I don't know. I haven't heard any stories as far as like, the hotel motel tax being damaged, because that's a big tax, especially for the county right now, because that's what the county's going to pay for the multi-use stadium. And so I would think that that'd be something the county wants to protect, which is why they put ordinance in place in the first place. And maybe that's part of the licensure. If you do an Airbnb and you actually bother getting the license, you have to pay them a hotel motel tax as part of it. I don't know. But I haven't heard that that's an issue. So it doesn't seem to me that the hotels and motels are losing occupancy to them. So there's enough people traveling to Knoxville regularly to sustain the gajillion hotels we have in town, the gajillion Airbnbs we have in town, and the people that live here still can't find a place to live. Like that's where the numbers I get lost in, because it doesn't make sense.
I mean, I'd be curious to see what a hotel actually needs to have occupancy requirement to be profitable.
It's probably not that big.
Right.
I mean, it's probably less than half.
I know I've said it here many a times, like, we have so many fucking
I agree,
hotels here in Knoxville, and I'm like, I don't know how some haven't gone under.
But if the discussion is that there are a high number of Airbnbs that aren't licensed, and assuming that if you get a license to do a short-term rental as an Airbnb owner, that goes into hotel motel tax, there hasn't been complaints of loss of hotel motel tax income from the city or the county.
Right.
Or from the county only, I guess. I don't know if the city has their own version of it. I don't remember. But there hasn't been complaint of that. So the income's still coming in.
That we know of. I don't know.
Right. But, I mean, we're counting on it. The county is counting on it because they're going to cover... It's going to cover more than their share of the stadium project. It's going to cover their share of the stadium project plus all the other stuff it's already doing, without having to worry about having to dip into other funds on the county side to pay for their part of the stadium. So if... I don't know. I guess the grand assumption I'm making here is that the hotel motel tax is still being strong. You haven't heard any complaints from the hotel motel industry that they're not keeping occupancy up, even though they know there are enough people to travel to Knoxville to utilize their services. So my assumption is that the hotels and motels, for the most part, are still hitting occupancy numbers that they want to be profitable. I mean, hell, they just built like 2 new ones. Where was that? There's a couple new ones that just opened up a couple weeks ago. I mean, they're still building hotels in town.
Yeah.
So the demand is there for short-term rentals above and beyond the Airbnbs. So I'm just like, the numbers don't add up across the board to me. And then on the other side of it is everybody and their brother can't get the staff they need to operate their businesses. I mean, we've been actively hiring for 4 months. How many people? How many ads have we done in the last 4 months? 3,
Right.
4. And it's like consistently. I hear it from everybody. Like the Union Jacks people talk about all the time. They can't keep They can't get and keep enough people to operate their businesses. And it's not just unique to this small group that I'm referencing now. Like, there was a thing in the Sunday paper about, new year, new work, new job, or new year, new career. Here are the top, whatever industries that if you want to find work in, you're going to find work fast. And hospitality is top of that list as per usual.
Right.
But it's just, but it's not just it's hospitality. It was hospitality, medical, and then I can't remember what the third one was, but it wasn't just like low pay, low wage, whatever kind of shit. It was a pretty broad swath of job types.
I mean, we've been ever creeping into the point to where we're going to need a lot more of like elder and assisted living care workers.
Yeah. My parents are getting there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't disagree with that part of it. It's just
there's always been that demand for it just because it is such a low wage, and there's just only a certain set of people that can even afford to live at that wage.
Right. And it's a high turnover. It's a high turnover industry.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like, the News Sentinel had a thing, cover story is like 2/3 of Knoxville residents can't afford to buy a house in Knoxville.
Yeah.
There's a problem there, and I'm not sure what it is. That being said, we're one of the higher paid hospitality people out there, so if you are looking for work, UVAPLoungeKnox.com/apply. Shoot us a pre-application through the website, and we'll hit you up, see what's up. But I mean, I don't know. Like the cost of living is too much, and this is one of those arguments I've gotten into 1,000 times. Is minimum wage doesn't fix that. Raising minimum wage doesn't fix that. To me, I acknowledge that there are plenty of jobs that take advantage of the fact that they're very low skill level, so they pay very little, and that turnover is part of the process. When I was at Cookout, it's not hard work. Well, it's hard work, but it's not hard to know how to do the work. And as a rule, they always hired. You had somebody that was capably hired. Got yelled at for your labor being too high, but if your trainees didn't count against your labor cost, because they knew that they would burn through people.
Right.
And that was by design. By design, they would always overstaff, burn through, always have enough staff. But they always knew that they were going to turn staff over consistently. And as much as I think it's kind of shitty to do, I also understand the rationale for it is it's a shit job.
Right.
And all the parts and pieces kind of require it to pay pretty crappy. And so people aren't going to stick around for very long. And so you just keep churning them through the system.
Right. I wouldn't want to be the scheduling manager in that situation.
No, it sucked. But like the problem I have with the grand conversation on it is all we ever talk about is asshole owners don't pay enough. And I acknowledge that, yes, probably on average, especially in your giant corporations or your bigger companies, they generally probably underpay. I pat myself on the back because I don't think we hit that threshold. I think we pay well for what we do. But even in that, though, like the argument is bad to me. Part of the problem I have with that argument is that the people that won't just survive but thrive through some sort of crazy like $20 an hour change to minimum wage are the biggest, meanest, grossest corporations. Amazon, like Bezos and Amazon Bezos was advocating for a $15 minimum wage a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, and then everything fled sideways and we all got confused. But he was advocating for it. Why would Bezos advocate for a $15 minimum wage? One, he already pays everybody $15 an hour. He's advocating for that because that makes it harder on his competitors to compete with him.
Sure.
Makes his life easier because less people can even approach competing with him. Not that anybody can really compete with Amazon in the first place. But it makes it harder for competition because he can afford this new base pay that nobody else can. And so to me, I acknowledge that there are a lot of people that are underpaid for what they do. But I think there's a whole other side that we have to figure out because it's too expensive. Okay, I don't make enough, but it's too expensive. Okay, well, the only one we're willing to converse and attack is how much you make, not how much it costs. Like, how is it that certain things cost what they do? And then we have 7% inflation on top of that. Like, why is it so expensive to live in anywhere in the U.S., but in Tennessee specifically? And Tennessee being one of the cheaper states. You know, $1,000 a month for an okay one-bedroom apartment?
Right.
You know, is that accurate?
I think it's one thing that employers struggle with. It's like, hey, we can pay you a decent living wage. We can't really control your outside cost.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, is that, but that's the only conversation we seem to ever have about it is
right, because you have to, at least to get a better outcome, you have to try to look at it at a holistic approach with everything kind of included all together. And take into consideration, you know, what it costs your...
It's complicated.
Well, to take into consideration what your employees are.
I agree, but the question, I guess, so the solution always is raise minimum wage, right? That's the solution that people like to throw out. I'm not saying it's the only solution.
It's a general starting point.
But what is it? Changing minimum wage would be a government policy to try to assist in a known situation. We have this known problem. People can't afford to live.
Right.
They don't make enough money to pay their bills and live a reasonable life in the richest, most powerful country in the world. That's a problem. Okay, we agree that's a problem. A policy solution, which seems to be the only policy solution that anybody ever talks about, is make the bosses pay them more. Because if they pay them more, then they can afford the things, which is logical in concept. What policy solutions can we do and look at to go at the other side? How do we make life less expensive to live?
Yeah.
So, okay, sure, let's talk about making sure we get more money out of the employers. Sure, that's one solution, but let's raise minimum wage and what over here, so that we don't have to put the entirety of the burden on the business owner.
Yeah.
Let's put some of the burden elsewhere. What policy things can we do to lower the price of housing? What policy things can we do?
The government should subsidize the companies more.
What are you talking about?
I'm being sarcastic.
I mean, I don't know. Is that a solution?
No.
Okay.
That's what the companies ask for, though. They're like, hey, we've got to pay our companies, we've got to pay our employees more. We need higher subsidies. I mean, so we can pay our employees more.
I mean, which we probably won't. We'll sneak around and do all sorts of bullshit because we're shitty companies. And again, but who gets asked for subsidies? It's only the biggest of the big companies. Like regular companies don't get asked for that. I've never asked for. I mean, I guess
get asked for subsidies.
Yeah. But again, but you're still focused on the business side of it. I'm not expecting you to have something prepared off the top of your head on this, but if policy can go after business to try to raise pay,
all right,
where can policy go in to lower costs? Whether it's state, local, or federal policy. What policies can we put in place to make housing cheaper, to make gas cheaper, to make food cheaper? You know, because then the question comes is, why is X cost what it does?
All right.
So we need to work our way backwards from, a pound of beef costs X on the grocery store shelf. Where does all the parts and pieces of cost come from? And I think it's something to look into. I don't know the answer either. But again, my frustration is that we only talk about this one side, probably because it's the easiest one to digest. Pay them more, they can afford more stuff. Easy. Boom. Done.
All right.
Where trying to figure out why a pound of beef costs $6 when it could cost $2.
It has a more broader appeal upon the economy. If the workers are making more money, they can spend more money across the broad spectrum of the business economy.
Okay, so to try to put an example together on the spot, what was the first year the Mustang came out?
66, 67, maybe.
What was a Mustang in the 60s? How much you off the lot? Like $5,000?
$5,000.
What's a Mustang today? 60, 55. They're cheaper in the muscle car category.
I would assume lower to mid 30s.
Okay, we'll go with it. I don't know the answer to it, but we'll go with it. So that's
starting at, I don't know,
6-7 fold in 50 years.
Sure.
Okay, so why is a Mustang 6 times more expensive? And again, this is a hugely broad question. I'm not expecting you to just dump an answer on me that you prepared this. But this goes back to AC used to ask me the question all the time. Like this little picturesque house that we lived in.
Why are things more expensive than the dollar value of what they were 75 years ago?
It's a question worth conversing.
No, it's
it just
not.
is. So what's the answer? Why is it then?
It's not.
It's not worth talking about. Then there's an answer. What's the answer?
There's a different devaluation of the dollar.
And does government policy have anything to do with devaluing the dollar? Could government policy...
To an extent, yes.
Could the government do policies to strengthen them?
It's also global markets that value what the dollar is worth.
Are there policies that the government could do to strengthen the value of the dollar?
I'm sure there are, yes.
Okay. But we don't talk about those as options. We only talk about raising wages. Again, I'm not trying to pick anything against you personally. I'm just trying to say, like, this is a whole avenue of conversation, and you just said things get more expensive over time.
But the international valuation of the dollar would not have as much of an impact on how much you pay retail for particular items.
Well, I mean, the international value of the dollar...
Just because the devaluation of the dollar doesn't mean that major retailers are going to then drop it down 3 or 4 cents depending on the valuation of the dollar and how it ended on the Dow Jones at the end of the day.
I mean, the dollar's not on the Dow Jones, but you're right. You're probably right, because most companies aren't going to go back down even if the cost goes down in the process.
New York Stock Exchange, pardon.
I don't think the dollar is on... I don't believe... Anyway, it doesn't matter. Those are stupid.
It is. I'm pretty sure there's a valuation of on what the dollar is worth.
There is.
It's all comparative.
There are monetary exchanges, yes, but I do not believe it's not on the Dow Jones or the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, because the dollar is not a stock.
What's it on?
It's
where's the dollar valued?
It's a trade value. I don't know. I don't know how to look that up. I don't care. It doesn't matter. That's not the point.
Well, no, just don't tell me I'm wrong when you don't know that you're right.
Okay. I am okay. Let's see. Is the U.S. dollar traded?
I like to type out sentences when you're Googling stuff.
Can you trade the U.S. dollar on the stock market? You may trade the DXY and other live markets with virtual assets. What the fuck that means?
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Crazy.
What is a DXY?
What is the stock symbol for the U.S. dollar? U.S. dollar
it's a dollar
index,
symbol.
Stock price quoted as USD.
It's a dollar symbol or USD. I know what the abbreviation is, motherfucker.
What is the U.S. dollar index and how to trade it? The U.S. dollar index is a measure of the value of this dollar relative to a basket of foreign currencies. The USDX was established by the U.S. Federal Reserve in 1973. After the dissolution of the Bretton Woods Agreement, it is now maintained by ICE Data Indices, a subsidiary of the Intercontinental Exchange. The 6 currencies include the U.S. dollar, French mark, or French franc, German mark. All those are gone anyway. This has got to be old as shit. No, 2022. I didn't know that they still had the franc and the mark and the guilder. Thought they all... when the euro... Oh, sorry, I misread it.
Yeah.
The index has been updated once in 1999 when the euro replaced the franc mark, lira, guilder, Belgian franc. Consequently, it does not accurately represent present-day U.S. trade. I don't fucking know what we're talking about anymore. Doesn't matter.
Well, you stopped when it got important, when what it was they was
all right, well, you start
excluding.
Reading. Out loud? Someone's in here silently.
I mean,
and this is, and plus this is an index.
You were reading things that were
but this is
applicable to it.
An index is not the dollar.
No, but it changes day to day.
You're right. The value of the dollar changes day to day, and it changes day to day depending on what the euro, how many euros somebody's willing to give for a dollar. I acknowledge that as a fact. U.S. policy can impact the value of the dollar. Why aren't we making policy changes to strengthen the value of the dollar to make that $10 an hour wage go further for the person who gets it?
Such as,
I don't know, taking a couple $1 trillion out of circulation. That'd be a start.
What are you talking about?
And that's what the Federal Reserve can print money. They can also take money in and destroy it,
which they do.
Right. Maybe they should do a little more, because the less number of dollars on the market, the more they're
I'm
worth.
pretty sure I sent you an article that talked specifically about how much the Federal Reserve destroys versus how much it actually prints.
Was it a net negative?
Yes.
They destroy more than they print?
Yes, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I could be
I'll-
wrong.
I'll have to go find that article in 50,000 Texas ago, and I'll try to reread it.
I'll see if I can't maybe find it again.
It doesn't matter.
Because
They
there's
can-
always like a misnomer
If you wanna strengthen the-
amongst many people. They're like, well, the U.S. is just printing money left and right.
If you
They're just printing more money, and they're just devaluating the money without the realization that we actually destroy a lot of dysfunctional currency.
well,
It's
destroying bills
being-
and destroying dollars are not the same thing.
It is.
It is not. There are more dollars in circulation than there are bills.
Correct.
Not in denominational issues.
Digitally, yes, yeah.
Right.
Denominational, yes.
But not denominationally. Like, if to simplified version, if you had a $100 bill, a $50 bill, a $20 bill, it's $170. You can destroy those, but you don't necessarily destroy the $170 in dollars on the planet.
Right.
Now, if I destroyed them in my pocket, yes, if I took those bills and burned them in my driveway, but if the Federal Reserve takes them in and buys them from a bank, buys $1 million in bills from the bank, and destroys those bills, it doesn't mean the Federal Reserve can't put that $1 million back out into the market without actually printing new bills.
Right. I mean, I don't think they keep like a net negative sum there when they're doing those transactions as far as destroying
again,
bills.
It doesn't matter, even if you're right. Even if with the article that you said are right, that we are, the Fed at least is destroying more money than it's
I
creating.
mean, it may not be more so, but it's definitely much less than people realize.
Okay,
are,
well, they
are
could
being
be
destroyed.
They could be destroying more money.
Most people just assume like, oh, well, we got this inflation just because we're just printing all this money and we're just flooding the market with money. Well, we don't realize how much we're actually destroying on a day-to-day basis.
I mean, I still don't. I would be hard pressed to believe that in the consistently deficit budget that the United States government puts out year in and year out, that we are destroying more than we're creating. It doesn't work if we're either borrowing it and paying massive fees on loans, or we're printing it, or both.
I mean, most of it's in the digital sphere.
That's fine, but you can destroy the dollars. Period, not just the bills. You can't have you can't continue to because the phrase "print money" to me doesn't mean physically print a bill. It means create more money in the market. Going back into that things where you can lend more than you pay back and stuff like that. Like, where did the PPP money come from? Like, everybody likes to pick on people that took advantage of that, which plenty of people did. Where did the money come from? Like, I mean, it's a real question. Where did it actually come from?
Right.
Billions of dollars are sent out and given to businesses with the pretext that they were supposed to keep paying their employees whether they're working or not. And if you at least kept paying your employees, you didn't have to pay that money back. Where did it come from? Now, in the grand scheme of things, did that or the $600 checks we got through the pandemic have anything to do on the large number of of dollars printed that year? No. The millions and billions and trillions of dollars that went out to the banks and the airlines and other bullshit, that's where the bulk of that money went. But regardless, that's not the point. The point is, we can't keep printing money and expect the dollar value to stay up. We can't. There has to be a deficit in dollars. We have to have less dollars on the market year in and year out. Because at the end of the day, the $100 is going to go as far as the number of $100 that are out there. Because if there's $1 million on the market, $100 doesn't go very far. If there's only $1,000 on the market, that's 10% of the market. That $1,000 is worth more. You're going to get more for that $100. That is one way to change the value of money. There's a lot of other ways they could do shit too. But that's just an example off the top of my head.
Yes, there's many different ways that...
Right, but we can only
that
talk...
goes into valuation of the dollar that we assume is the cost of the dollar.
But you're proving my point.
Or value of the dollar.
But you're proving my point in that when we talk about trying to fix these market issues, why is housing so expensive? Why is it so expensive to live in a cheap state like Tennessee? Why is it still so expensive to live? The only solution we ever get to talk about is raising wages. And when I try to shift that to how can we make your dollar go further, you have no answers. And it's not because of you. This is because it's not something that we talk about publicly. And I don't know a lot of it either. I just know there's a whole other side of the coin that nobody's willing to talk about. Why aren't we willing to talk about this other side? Because, yes, one simple, easily digestible, theoretical solution would be just triple what we pay everybody, and then they can afford the things they want. Realistically, it's not going to happen like that, but that's an easy way to sell it, where this other side is more complicated, and complicated is not worth talking about. And it's not your fault. This is not a slight on you at all. This is a slight on us as a society at large. We're not willing to talk about the complicated side of it because we have an easy solution over here, even though it's not a real solution. And I want to talk about this.
What's the easy solution?
The easy solution is just raise minimum wage to $15, $18 an hour.
Okay, that's not the easy solution.
What's the easy solution?
No, I thought that's what you thought was an easy solution.
Compared to the other side.
Are you saying that's a realistic easy solution?
No, I don't think it's an actual solution at all.
Okay, that's what I thought the way you were trying to present it.
I don't think it's a real solution at all.
Okay, well then don't present it as much.
I wasn't presenting it as much. I'm saying that's the only one that we talk about. Okay. Would you agree with that factor that I'm trying to that premise I'm putting out?
No.
So when we talk about it's too expensive to live,
right,
and people don't have the money they need to buy the stuff they want,
right,
or need to live,
yeah.
What are people? What are this like? What is the cause and what are the solutions that people put out when they have when that conversation's out there?
It's multifaceted.
They give me some facets because again, the only one I ever hear is just pay them more, make the business pay them more.
Oh, sorry, that's the only thing you're hearing.
Well, if there's other things out there, I'm open to hearing them. That's what I was asking for this whole time. There's the other side of the coin. I want the other side of the coin solutions.
The other side of the coin is the cost of the actual product. So as far as manufacturers inflating that cost of what it actually is to do that. You have the cost of inflation itself. You have the cost of...
Okay, so let's pick up one. So manufacturers are inflating the price.
Okay.
How are they getting away with that?
It's high demand.
Then they're not inflating the price.
Then they are.
No, they're not. If you're willing to pay for it, and there are more than one option for it, but you're still willing to pay that high dollar, that's not inflating the price.
So the fact that people are willing to pay a price for what they want, even though the price is increasing, is complacency for being okay with the price being high.
Any version of economics that you want to put out there on the table, any version of it, the goal is to find the balance, to sell the product for as much as you can.
So the fact that people still want something is...
No, want and willing to pay. Those are two very different things.
Oh, willing to pay, and then the fact that they make that transaction, does that not...
I want a plug-in hybrid. I am not willing to pay $80,000 for one.
Okay.
So I'm not buying one.
All right.
Now, the solution in the relationship between me and the car manufacturer would be they could bring the price down to a number that I'm willing to pay, or I don't buy it.
Okay. So car manufacturers should base their prices upon one person's willingness to pay a thing.
No, not on one person.
Okay. Okay.
What are you giving me the side face for?
I don't know what you're even talking about.
They're what did I say? 80,000, 60,000. What did I say for the car?
No idea.
All right, we'll go back. We'll say 80,000.
Okay.
So I'm not willing to pay $80,000 for this car.
Okay.
Apparently, people are because they're selling them.
Right.
So they should absolutely not lower the price to my standard because there are people willing to pay the number that's out there. Now, especially for the plug-in hybrid situation, there's not enough on market. They can't make them fast enough for the number of people that want them. Realistically, that price should be going up. Look at Max and his Bronco. Not a plug-in hybrid, but Max and his Bronco. He has a dealership that sells Fords that told him as soon as he takes delivery on his Ford, they will buy it for $10,000 over what he pays for it. So they can sell it on lot for $10,000 over that. The demand for that Bronco is above what Ford has set the price for it. If Ford was doing their job correctly, they should be setting it at $20,000 over what they're selling it for, because there's people willing to pay that out there.
Okay.
Ford screwed up and let him pre-order it and pay less than what the market is willing to bear. That is economics 101 and a half. Any business, you set the price as high as you can that people will continually to buy it. It doesn't really matter how much it costs, as long as that number that you're selling it for is higher than what you paid to produce it, because you have to have some margin in it to stay in business. So back to your original point, if people are willing to pay for it and they have options of other things similar to that are cheaper or different, but they're still paying for that one, then it's not an inflated price. Now, some of the shit going on currently with the high inflation and companies changing their prices to take advantage of people assuming they're going to pay more is fucked up. But that's taking advantage of people being dumb, which is fucked up. And I'm not saying that's an okay or good way to do it, but it's taking advantage of the stupidity of the American people, which is somebody's fault, if you want to put it that way. Like, why are we so dumb to fall for it? Why don't we know better?
We want what we want.
Okay, because they sell it to us, and they do a really fucking good job selling it to us.
True.
But I'm just saying, like that. Like I think that's one of the things that's problematic in the conversation, is that, because what I was hoping you were going to say when you said they're inflating the price is that that's the only option. Like, we can go to a chicken conversation where I want to buy chicken. Well, we got 3 places. At the end of the day, there's only 3 places your chicken's coming from.
Right.
Now, that one's a problem. And that's a problem of omission on the federal government's part for letting them consolidate to the point.
That was more what I was trying to say, is when people want something, they want it then. And they're not going to shop around and try to find the best deal or whatever.
But that's on the consumer. That's the consumer's. If you're not making enough money to afford the thing, even though you want the thing, some of that's got to lay on the consumer, right? You want a thing you can't afford?
To an extent, but I mean, even going back to
that's a failure of education, if nothing else.
I mean, even going back to car autos, as far as like the inflation impacting that.
Well, it's because that's another one that, again, going back to the housing market thing too. That's the demand confuses me. Like, the fact that, like, part of the inflation in cars is that we're not getting enough chips out of China to finish production on all these cars and shit like that. And we shut down the economy for a period of time and all this stuff. But somehow people have enough money to go buy $70,000 cars, and not just some people, but a lot of people, and that we're demanding more cars than can be produced.
That's a semi-separate issue as far as people just overextending their credit lines,
right? But that to me that's an education issue, which is a government problem too. Like, we were raised on debt. We're taught that debt is okay by our federal government because they do it every fucking year. We're not taught economic, a good home economics education, not baking cookies. Although we are baking cookies right now, and I'm so excited about it. But just actual economics of the home. How to balance a checkbook, shit like that. We're not taught that well. And the dangers of going into debt, especially for things that aren't that important. Go into debt for a house. Go into debt for a car. Makes sense. Go into debt for a business. Invest in a business. Take a swing at it, whatever. That's one thing. But the amount of credit card debt that the American people are comfortable holding is crazy.
Right.
It's a crazy fucking number. The idea that people have more credit card debt than they have income and shit like that, it's a crazy thing. And it's like, for what? Because you wanted a thing. Well, then you weren't taught how to manage well. I
think it's more of like a worry. Those are the people that are right there, literally on the edge.
I agree that is probably the case on a number of them, but I think there's a conversation to be had too on like what is.
But I mean, at the same time, the people that we assume to be well-to-do with a great house and a great car and a great job,
up to their fucking assholes,
right?
Yeah. And again, I think that, and I think that's part of,
like you said, it's kind of been bred into like that's just been an acceptable way of life. Like you're supposed to have a house that you're paying off.
I mean,
Like, I remember, like, asking my parents, like, you know, years ago when I was in middle school or something about, like, I assume when we bought our house, like, we bought the house.
right,
And they're like, well, no, like, we're not going to own this house for another 20 years or whatever.
right. My parents, who are 75, have owned outright for 10 years their home. They've had a home that they've been buying since they were in their 20s. So for 50 years, well, for 35, 40 years of their life, they were buying a house. And only for this last little stretch did they own their house. I'm assuming your parents are pretty close to the same. They paid your house off yet?
Not sure.
Yeah. You know, and I mean, like if I play my cards right, I will own my home by 2050. If the world still exists by then, you know. But I'm just saying, like, you know, but that one, I mean, I don't know that one makes sense either. I think I think home values are way overinflated. But as a paying homeowner, I have vested interest in keeping home values up so that I don't lose my ass.
Right.
Because I don't know, this house was built in the 70s. It probably sold originally for $30,000. Brand new.
Nah, I don't know.
I'd have to go back and look at the KGIS on it. But I'm just saying, like, it's the cost of living is too high. What can we do policy-wise to attack that side of it? I'm not saying we don't look at the other side of it.
And that's when you get into controlling markets.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, that is an option in that side of it, sure.
That's the only way the government could then keep housing prices low, is controlling the housing market.
You don't think reducing some superfluous regulations somewhere in a process wouldn't lower the cost?
How?
I don't know. Like, food service is the only example I can think of, which is probably the worst one to try to play with. I don't know. Okay, so what's probably the most expensive industry that people deal with on a day-to-day basis? Healthcare.
Okay.
All right. I shouldn't ask the question. Just healthcare. So my friends at 4All-TN, one of their action items this year on the state legislature is to remove the certificate of need.
That was one thing I was wanting to ask you about, because I keep seeing fucking YouTube advertisements for this fucking certificate of need shit.
Okay.
It's like, talk to your legislator about repealing the certificate of need law.
Okay, so if the University of Tennessee Medical Center,
don't let the bureaucrats control.
it is. I mean, that's like an over dramatized version of it. But if the University of Tennessee Medical Center,
Yeah.
largest hospital in Knoxville,
Right.
wants to add more beds to their OR, like their ER area, actual admittance past ER, whatever that fucking title is. They want more beds. They want to add another wing. They have to file a certificate of need. And then a body convenes that includes administrators from UT Medical Center, Covenant Health, Fort Sanders Regional, Tenova, and they all get down together, as well as other bureaucrats regionally, and say, in the region, does it make sense that we have 20 more beds available across the region? Is that needed?
Okay.
And if the body agrees, then UT is allowed to build 20 more beds.
Okay.
What would be the problem if UT just built 20 more beds? Who loses? UT if they don't use them. Or Tenova if people use the 20 beds at UT instead of the Tenova beds. As a user of a bed, why do I give a shit? How does that advantage me as the citizen for them to get together and make sure that they maximize the usage out of their facilities as a group of companies, not an individual company?
All right. Are you done?
I mean, that's the question. How does that help me as the potential user of a facility by artificially restricting the number of beds available?
I mean, my immediate thought would be that they were probably subsidized for building those certain things. My initial thought on the certificate of need, which I think we've talked about it prior.
It's an action item that I like. I don't like it.
And talking about adding additional hospitals or whatever.
Right.
As far as requiring
it goes further, but
certificate of need to adding a hospital to a certain area.
If Fort Sanders wanted to put another MRI machine in their building, they have to file a certificate of need. It's a very comprehensive list of things that if they want to make their facility, if they want to increase the capacity of their facility in a number of ways, whether it's bed number, whether it's certain machines that they use in the facility, it has to go through the process.
Okay.
I other than to protect the interest of the people that are involved currently, I don't know how that benefits me. Like, where's the benefit in the certificate of need process? Who cares if there's 10 more hospitals than we need in the region?
I would care.
You would care if we had more hospitals than we need?
Yes.
Why would you care?
Just for the general fact that of just knowing that if you have another hospital, you also have to require them to be able to receive emergency services from certain things, which if they provide those emergency services, they have to have a certain number of people there to provide those certain services.
Okay.
So it also adds on to additional cost onto that certain area.
What certain, like me and you, the taxpayer, or them, the hospital?
Eventually, the taxpayer, yes.
Why would we eventually the taxpayer? If a brand new hospital opened up with no certificate of need because it didn't exist, and said they did emergency services and fulfilled all the guidelines as far as required equipment and
I'm
personnel,
assuming they got tax subsidies for building that hospital.
I don't. Okay.
Paid for by the taxpayers.
That's a strong assumption. I don't know that that's a fact. I mean, yes, UT Medical Center absolutely gets tax subsidies because they're associated with the UT Estate School. But Fort Sanders gets, I mean, like all the ERs.
For being a hospital, I'm almost certain they get a tax bonus for being a hospital.
Well, then just take the tax bonus off. Why make it harder for them to do better service?
Good luck. What incentive do they have for being a business and providing those services?
Well, why would they want to add more beds? Because they want to make more money. So be the best fucking hospital in the region.
Yes and no.
Be the best hospital in the region where everybody comes for their services because it's the cheapest and they do the best work and all that kind of stuff, and have UT Medical Center be 55,000 stories high to cover all the people that come in there.
So now it's just a competition issue?
I mean, it's not a competition issue now because the competition gets to decide whether you're allowed to compete or not. That's what the certificate of need is.
We've had a number of cases as far as like rural hospitals having to close down because they can't afford to stay open.
Yeah.
So I think there is a need for a certificate of need for a certain area. And as far as
why didn't they get subsidies? Those rural hospitals, they must have shitty grant writers.
I'm sure they were, but I'm sure it didn't amount to the caseload they had coming in. I don't know.
I mean, if the argument is that Tenova shut down their Blount County building and added beds to their Knox County building as a way to save cost and just force those people from Blount County to come into Knox County to get the services, if that's the point of certificate of need, all right, I'll grant you that. But obviously that's not because every rural hospital shut down in the last decade anyway. It's not stopping that problem. Got the hiccups.
Yeah.
I disagree. I can't follow the idea that the certificate of need is. I can't do the mental gymnastics to make the certificate of need be a benefit to me as the consumer.
How is it so against you as a consumer?
Because what
I'm seeing like it.
How does it hurt?
It's literally consistent.
Okay, again,
to the point that it's getting really fucking annoying that I'm seeing these goddamn advertisements for repealing the certificate of need.
Okay.
Please help me explain why this is so atrocious.
Okay, so how does it hurt me as a consumer of medical care if Fort Sanders adds a new MRI machine? How is that a bad thing for me as a potential consumer of Fort Sanders or any of the other hospitals in the region? How is it bad for me if one of the hospital regions in the regions adds an MRI machine that they don't currently have?
I mean, I don't disagree on the minutia of what I assume is of what you're talking about in the certificate of need.
Okay.
As far as I agree, if a hospital wants to add one MRI machine, that I don't fully agree with they need to go through a certificate of need process as far as adding one more MRI machine.
Okay, so they want to add 20 beds.
Okay.
How is that a negative to me if they want to add 20 beds?
I could see there being a limit upon it.
Why?
I mean, why?
Why could you see there being a limit on the number of beds? Rowdy wants to get on the show bad, people.
Hey.
How can you see that there needs to be a limit on the number of beds available in hospitals in a region?
It would depend on what kind of beds you're providing.
Now, I will grant you brought up a point that I didn't think about it the subsidy-wise. If they're getting subsidized to build new rooms, yeah, that's bullshit. But that's the subsidy that's the bullshit. That's not the certificate of need that is.
It's somebody else's fault.
Yeah, the fact that they're subsidizing a profit-rearing entity.
Because they're subsidizing for no need. The subsidy is there to benefit those that are trying to go above and beyond, in my opinion. They're literally trying to...
The subsidy is an enticement, an encouragement to perform a particular act or service that the state deems a net positive. Now, if the state has a design that says for every hospital bed we'll give you a $20,000 a year subsidy, then they need to reword that to say we'll give you a $20,000 a year subsidy per hospital bed up to a threshold. Where that threshold ends, where a certificate of need would come in. But if I wanted to open... Okay, so here's the other example of why the certificate of need is stupid. So let's say we go get the Powerball ticket and we hit the $500 million jackpot this weekend. And I decide, you know what I want to do with my $500 million? I want to build a hospital. I want to hire all the staff. I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to get all the paperwork and do all the things. And I'm going to do a low-cost hospital. I'm going to do all these different things. I'm not going to take subsidies from the state to do any of my shit. This is what I want to do. I can't do that. Why? Because I will not pass the certificate of need. It's not about a subsidy. It's not about any of this other stuff. It's literally about the group that exists gets to choose whether or not they're going to allow competition. So, I don't know, what's Mass General out of Massachusetts or whatever? I saw an ad for them on TV. That's the only reason it popped in my head. Oh. Mass General wants to move to Knoxville, wants to bring a facility and build a giant billion-dollar hotel. Yeah.
We have a Mass General.
In Knoxville?
Yeah.
I might know that.
Yeah, it's
Mass General store. Mast, you jackhole. Mass General Hospital, not Mass General.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway. Mass General, the hospital.
The T is silent in Mast.
Yeah. Mass General Hospital out of Massachusetts.
Gotcha.
Wants to open a new hospital in Knoxville. $1 billion facility. Doesn't want to take state subsidies. Do you think Tenova, Fort Sanders, Covenant Health, and UT Medical Center are going to sign off on that?
No.
Why not? Why wouldn't they be great? We got a new hospital in the region. That's awesome. More services available for all the people that live here. Wouldn't they be like, yes, this is good for us?
Not necessarily, no.
No, because it's not good for them. So they're going to say, no, we don't want you here. We're not going to pass the certificate of need for you. And they are part of the input process.
I wonder why they call it a certificate of need. You know, that's always it's really ambiguous.
Who cares? But that's you haven't.
But what? It is literally a certificate of need. How much more explanation does that need?
It needs a lot. It needs a fucking whole lot. Because who gets to
understand?
Choose?
Like
who chooses need?
You can have a.
Who gets to choose what need is? That we need it or not? Maybe we do need another one because they're going to service us differently than this other one does.
And I'm assuming there's some kind of remediation process as far as you trying to explain, like why what you're trying to bring has a need.
Okay, so Knox County,
outside of the certificate of need,
the city of Knoxville, at least for a period of time,
right,
had the most restaurants per capita in the nation.
Right.
Why don't we have a certificate of need process for that? We sure as shit don't need another fucking restaurant in Knoxville.
Let's see, a healthcare provider versus a retail food provider.
Yeah.
I wonder which one has the more certificate of need. I'm going to lean towards healthcare.
Why? They're the ones.
Why? Why?
If we're gonna
do you really have to ask me why?
I fucking do. Stop.
Why?
Stop. If you wanted to have extra of one thing, of the two options we have, if you wanted to have extra, an excess of, just in case some fucking crazy happened, which one would you want to have an extra of? Would you rather have an extra place to go for healthcare, or would you rather have an extra fucking place to go to eat?
You're going into a totally different sphere.
Bullshit.
Okay, you're right. I should be able to go into a hospital and be able to order a plethora of appetizers
that's not what I'm talking about at
and
all.
entrees.
No, stop. That's not what I'm talking about.
You're trying to equate them as the same. You are. If you're comparing restaurants to hospitals.
If we had the pandemic again, right? If the new pandemic starts today, this RSV thing, if this RSV thing was the end of fucking days, right? The new COVID that's even worse and killing more fucking people, and we need more hospital beds.
Okay.
All right. If that shit comes off, which one would you rather have excess of, more than you need of? Would you rather have more than you need of restaurants or more than you need of hospitals and hospital beds? Which one would you rather have more than you need of in a situation? I would rather have more than I need of hospitals available.
You know that I would agree with that. I don't know why you're even trying to propose this question.
Of all the ridiculous things to have a cap on, why would we have a cap on healthcare to go above some arbitrary need that's bureaucratically designed and not have that on restaurants? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would we have a cap on this need? Why would we make a top to this need? It doesn't make sense. I would rather have extra of that. I would rather have more than I need of that. It doesn't make any sense, dude. I don't know what you're fucking laughing at right now. It makes zero sense. I'm not trying to say that fixing a broken leg and a filet mignon are the same fucking thing.
I agree with you.
Then why would you put a certificate of need in place on the thing that you would want more than you need of?
Because you are arguing two totally different spectrums of certificates of need. You are.
No, because you're capping a potential. It's a business either way, right? You're capping one business.
And two totally different perspectives.
It doesn't matter.
But it does.
It doesn't. You're capping a business because there's some artificial thought that if you have excess of this one business, it's going to damage the whole. Because you agree that you shouldn't have to ask permission to get an MRI machine to add to your hospital. You agreed with that.
Because you open up a burger place, you were automatically cornering the...
Okay, I don't know if the subsidy is true.
The market on food service.
No, it's not about that.
Because you open up a cardiac facility, you are automatically cornering the market on any health care. Exactly.
What?
So if you order a burger place, you are not cornering the market on food services in a city or in an area.
No.
If you order a heart place or you open up a cardiac facility that specializes just in heart, you are not cornering the market upon
cardiac care in the region.
Exactly.
Okay. So why would you stop someone from opening up a cardiac care place because of a certificate of need, because the other cardiac care places don't want you there, but you won't stop a new Burger King from opening up? Why would you stop one? Why would you stop either? That's my point. It doesn't make sense to stop either. What's the harm in having extra?
And that's exactly what I was trying to point out. Or, sorry, not exactly, but that is part of the point of why I was trying to differentiate the point of certificate of need versus a fucking food restaurant location.
I was throwing the example
you have satiation versus...
My point is that you have a certificate of need in place that is arbitrarily pushing down the availability of a certain product or service. Why don't we do it on this other thing where we know there's a failure rate of above 50%?
Okay.
Because it doesn't make any sense to do it.
So we should have an excess of it.
Constantly. Why would it be a problem? Because then the hospitals lose money?
Why would it not be a problem? When a hospital is required to have a cardiologist, a pulmonologist, all these specialities to be on call at any point during a day.
If they have an ER that's 24-hour ER, sure. Then their business model needs to make sure that they can make that affordable, or they fail. They go bankrupt like any other business does.
Okay. Which is why they have a little bit of say in the certificate of need law when they say there is a service that is already being provided and that there literally is no certificate of need because we can show you in our past 10 years
so then what's
of
the harm,
operating a hospital.
What's the harm of a of a place opening up, failing and going under in 5 years?
In our current billing model, that only increases cost.
Why would that increase cost?
How would it not increase cost? Because it costs someone to be there during those specific times.
It's not in your fucking plan. You pay the extra. Just like I did with my fucking aftercares bullshit.
What the fuck are you talking about?
That's so you're the premise is you restrict the supply to make it cheaper? That's the premise you're going to try to push right now?
No, I'm saying
you restrict supply because that'll force it to be cheaper because the insurance companies suck.
What? I didn't say anything about insurance whatsoever. I'm talking about
what the actual billing model.
What the actual hospital costs.
Our current billing model. Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. You didn't add insurance to that. So our current billing model says that you have to have that to have all these people on. It's going to cost this place a certain number of dollars an hour, where they have a 5-person or 0 people in that time frame.
Damn it! No. I'm saying that's what they're looking at it from the grand scheme of operating a fucking hospital, not a patient going in.
So if I want to go
please don't conflagrate the same.
Okay. So if I want to open a hospital, it's not my responsibility to figure out if I can keep that place open or not, and whether I can figure out a pricing model that makes it work to keep my staff paid and the people required to be there when they're supposed to be there. It's not my responsibility. It's the state's responsibility, and the competitors that I have to deal with responsibility to make sure that I can have a winning model.
Honestly, I don't understand what the biggest pushback in this is whatsoever. What hospital has tried to come into any major city in Tennessee and has run into a certificate of need law that they've got to run these goddamn fucking advertisements left and right?
I'm curious what your algorithm is saying that he's feeding you this to.
Do what?
I'm curious why your algorithm feels like it needs to feed this to you.
I wonder that myself.
Dude, okay, fine. So,
like, I don't see this as a major issue.
If the issue has no day-to-day functional merit, then the principles don't matter. Just let it stay. We can't talk about it on a principality issue. It has to have real-world direct consequences with an instance right on hand of when it was a failure to me and you.
No, that's not what I'm saying whatsoever.
So the principle being that instead of a individual administrator in hospital making decisions on how to operate their own hospital and add beds and procedures and equipment to best utilize their resources, they need to put that into the certificate of need process to make sure that everybody else is okay with it.
I mean,
because that's for the greater
within
good.
My limited knowledge
of
what I know of what a hospital has to be a quote-unquote hospital,
I will give you.
They have to have certain numbers of certain specialities in there at all times to operate as a hospital.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I never disagreed with that. It is the onus of...
You make it sound like that, like anyone should just be able to open a hospital, and
It is the onus of...
If they just want to do good for the public,
again,
like they should be able to be able to be there.
Not that restaurants and hospitals are the same thing, but when you decide to open a restaurant as a small business owner, you make that decision knowing that there's a risk and that you put in the inputs and the food and the costs and all that stuff into place in a way that you think it's going to work out. You don't go into doing it to fail. You go in thinking you have a model that's going to win.
Right.
So why would we stop a hospital that wants to put a model in from that may be different than the normal? Maybe this fast casual thing that came in the restaurant game. Maybe there's somebody that's trying to figure out a way to do that with a hospital, but they can't even get their foot in the fucking door because they can't pass a certificate of need. We don't know what could be happening.
What?
We don't know what could be happening. We don't know places that take different looks on it.
That's under your general assumption.
But again, who cares? Who cares if anybody's tried to do anything or not? On principle, how does it make sense to have that restricted?
We should just let them give it a go.
Sure. Why is that a bad thing? We let restaurants do it all the time. We let all sorts of businesses do it all the time. How is it going to damage us?
We should hold restaurants to the same accountability of hospitals.
What are you talking about, accountability? I'm not saying that they get to fucking do whatever the fuck they want.
You're trying to say that they're the same fucking business model.
Yes, their business model is to make money like every fucking business on the planet. Yes. Now, I will give you one thing that I did not consider is whether there's a subsidy at play or not. If there's a subsidy at play, then it'll make sense a little bit. But that's still the subsidy issue more than it is the certificate of need issue. But if the certificate of need is the stop against overuse of the subsidies, then I'll accept its existence.
I can almost guarantee there's a subsidy involved in being a healthcare provider.
And if it's based on the same factors that they use for needing the certificate of need, then I will shut the fuck up about this. Like if it is the same list of what you need to get a certificate of need for, of what they subsidize for, then I'm fucking wrong, and I will get on board with you, and I will say no. The certificate of need is
I don't know as much about
the
life. Certificate of need, if that's a Tennessee thing or a nationwide thing.
But is a hospital a money making enterprise? Should it be? We can argue that to death. Is it or isn't it? It is. There's no argument that it's not.
To an extent, I mean,
it is. And so the only reason
they're not there to lose money.
The only reason I compare them to restaurants for the conversation's sake is they're a money-making enterprise, just like a restaurant is. And when a restaurant invests money,
sorry, go ahead.
I don't. No, it's fine. I don't know. If you can't, if we can't be on the same frame,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I cannot see a restaurant and a hospital being on the same plane.
What is their goal in life? Their goal in life is to make money. How they make money is by... You just agreed with that. They're a profit-rearing enterprise. Are they not? Is a hospital not a profit-rearing enterprise? Is it not a for-profit business? They might even get nonprofit status, which is bullshit, but it is for-profit.
Reluctantly, in essence, yes, a hospital should be able to operate.
No, my question is not whether you think they should or shouldn't be. My question is whether they are or are not. Are they? Is the reason they exist?
I don't look at their fucking books. I don't know.
Is the reason they exist to make money? Yes, it absolutely is.
No.
Okay, then we're done. I don't know. There's no more to talk about. The reason they exist is to make money.
I'm sorry. Call a hospital administrator and say, "Excuse me, is the purpose of you operating a hospital to make money?"
Okay.
I would assume their first answer is not going to be yes.
Okay. Okay. So, is the reason you run for president to make money? No. Fuck yeah, it is. I mean, what are we talking about here? What is the only? I don't know how to talk about this.
You're trying to imply the
fact that the only reason they exist is to make money. It's the only reason they exist is to make money.
You're right. No, I'm sorry.
Why do we pay doctors? Why do we pay them then?
You're right.
Just do it for fucking free.
I know. Exactly.
Do it for free. Why does anybody pay for the service?
Exactly.
Why does anybody pay for it?
Exactly.
Do it for free.
Do everything for free. You go into a shop, you want some stuff,
just give it.
Have them give it to you for free.
Because I am here to make money. You come into my shop, you're paying me because I'm here to make money.
Well, no, everything's free, right?
No, if my business is for profit, and I'm not trying to pretend it's not.
Oh, gotcha.
Their business is for profit too.
Gotcha.
Tell me they don't make fucking gajillion dollars a year, well over what they pay to do what they do. If they're not in it for the money, then I'm fucking crazy.
Right.
I'm absolutely 100% crazy. Yeah, you're right. Some admin's going to be like, no, absolutely, we're here to be a positive influence on our community and make sure people are healthy. That's what we're here for.
That's right. Hospital.
They're there to make fucking money.
Let's just stop charging. There's no point.
They're I don't know how. Okay, well, give me a Florida man story. I don't know what else to do with this. What's your Florida man?
I ain't got no Florida man.
All right, I'm about to shit my pants. You want me to do it on air? Or?
Let's not do that on air.
Okay. Outro for me so I can go to the bathroom?
No, thank you.
Woo! Certificate of Need got hot. I gotta go potty real bad. Anyway, we're almost in agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. All your favorite podcast writers, like, share, friend, follow, all those cool things. We appreciate you sitting through me and Sam yelling at each other about some crazy argument over profitabilities and whatnot. So look out for the city election guide. I'm going to start working on that here in the next little bit. Try to figure out. It's only 5 total races, so it's not going to be a ton of stuff. But I'll start working on those candidates as they become available, and I will get those interviews on to you guys. Hey, we're almost agreement at gmail.com. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.